Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. A little shades of NES Ninja Gate in. I had to throw in for that. Because apparently there is Mr. McDavid who is looking for some revenge, and it could be coming as early as next week. I, of course, am your host, Mark Williams, who is delighted to bring along the two other parts of the Triforce of hockey in Big Apple Hockey, Mr. John Folkowski.
Yeah, it looks like we are heading for a rematch. And then, we've got some appreciation in the chat for it. So.
Well, especially whenever I do the shorts. And of course, as always, the third part from the hockey news, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
Yeah, I've pretty much have the same tag there as Phil talking about the rematch incoming. So it looks like we might get the Oilers and the Panthers again. And if you like high octane hockey, that's the series for you with McDavid and Draisaitl on the prime stage. So we'll see if they both can get over the hump here.
Yeah, and of course, everybody make sure you smash that like button for us and hit that subscribe button as well. We cover not only the New York teams, but we cover all of the NHL and also all of hockey, because after all, the United States did something they haven't done in 92 years. We'll get to that in the Bar Talk segment. But let's go to the A block, guys, where the Stanley Cup Finals are nearly set, could be set a little bit sooner. And of course, the A block is brought to you by Big Apple Hockey Trucker hats and shirts. They're available in the links, and presented by SeatGeek. Use the promo code Big Apple Hockey, $20 off your first order. Look for our Stanley Cup Finals preview and also our Islanders postseason wrap up, which is still coming soon. We have to do that soon. That's going to be coming soon. But last night, the Edmonton Oilers 4-1 winners over the Dallas Stars, take a 3-1 series lead. You have tonight the Florida Panthers. They seek a return to the Stanley Cup Finals for the third straight year, sort of pulling a reverse Tampa Bay, if you will. They have a 3-1 series lead over the Carolina Hurricanes, and we're going to get more into that series. You know it. And, of course, the last Stanley Cup Finals rematch, 2009, the Red Wings versus the Penguins. And that one flipped from the year before, where the Penguins were able to win it. Anthony, I'm going to start with you. Is the Stanley Cup final rematch inevitable?
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. Out of the two teams that are down, Dallas and Carolina, I think Dallas obviously is the one that is the better candidate to come back, just because they're a much better team than Carolina. But with that said, I think both series are pretty much over. So, I would, if this was a Bar Talk topic, I would tell you to get the hoop mark. I would say this is listen, I think going into the series, these conference finals, we all knew that Florida was the more talented team over Carolina, but Dallas Edmonton, I thought, and still could end up that way, but I just thought that series was going to be a little more closer than it is. I just think that highly of Dallas. They got good goaltending, they got good defense, and they got a lot of scoring depth. Some of it's not showing up for them, but on the roster, when you look at it, they certainly do. So surprised about that one. And, Carolina, Florida, I got to give it to the Hurricanes. After that game, that disastrous game 3, and we all said it's over. It's dead in the water. Ryan Whitney was making a joke about how the Hurricanes should just forfeit game 4 after game 3 and how bad that went. And they bounced back, and they were really, really good defensively. They gave Florida pretty much nothing. Anderson was great. Jacob Slavin was an absolute workhorse back there in game 3. And if they want to extend their season, Slavin's going to have to pretty much replicate what he did in game 3. But credit to the Hurricanes for not rolling over. They could have easily been like, this is over, we're going home, but they showed up in a big way. So can they do it again at home? I don't know. The thing I'll say is the Panthers have been known, obviously, to blow a little bit of a lead. Look, the last year's Stanley Cup Finals. So maybe if the Hurricanes squeeze out a win today, maybe it gets in their head a little bit. But I still think this series is clearly over and Florida is going to win. But I do wonder, though, if Carolina can pull off a win today and, make it 3-2, still take Florida, but then at least maybe there's a sliver of doubt in Florida's head. But, yeah, I mean, I think this has all the makings, though, of an Oilers-Panthers rematch.
Yeah, Phil, they could just be Thanos saying, I am inevitable when it comes
Oh,
to
you
right?
took the words out of my mouth. You knew that I was going to go and make the Thanos reference. You had to do it, didn't you? You had to do it.
Well, it was a good guess.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I can't believe Dallas is down like this. In a way, I can, because this Edmonton, and I've said this before, Edmonton is not just getting the production from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but don't look now, but Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has 18 points in 15 games after a slow start to the playoffs. Yeah, all of your failures. Yeah, Thanos took Amora, basically. So, it's just they're getting contributions up and down their lineup. They're getting timely goals from guys that you didn't expect, like Vasily Podkolzin has 5 goals. Who would have thought Vasily Podkolzin would have 5 goals in the playoffs of one postseason run in the big 2025? I certainly didn't. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, after a slow start, has 18 points, over a point per game. Evan Bouchard is over a point per game. Evander Kane has been huge for Edmonton. He's got 10 points. Zach Hyman, even though I think he got banged up in the last game,
he's out for the rest of the playoffs.
Oh, he's out for the rest of the playoffs.
He broke his wrist. He's having surgery.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's a big loss for them then. Oh, man. Oh, that's no bueno. He had 11 points and 5 goals in 15 games. Now you're going to have to replace that production. I mean, it's surprising that they're getting production from some of the guys that they're getting the production from. I didn't see the update on Hyman, but now knowing that's a tough and tall task to deal with. But if there's a team that can come back, if you ask me, it's Dallas. But they need to get going. They need to start getting production from everybody up and down their lineup. They need more from Matt Duchene. Mikko Rantanen has cooled off a little bit, still scoring quite a bit, but he's cooled off a little bit. To be expected, he was on a kind of an all-time heater there for a few games. But yeah, Dallas is a team that can do it, and Jake Ottinger has to start being Jake Ottinger again. Like, Stuart Skinner is matching him, and that's a scary thought, because if Stuart Skinner starts giving you reliable goaltending, then Edmonton can beat just about anybody out there, because they've got the guys to do it. And the worst part for every team, I said it last week, said it the week before, McDavid and Draisaitl have bought into playing 200-foot hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what you want to see, because that's maturity. That's maturing. That is Steve Yzerman and Mike Modano running into Scott Bowman and Ken Hitchcock and realizing that, hey, I have to play a 200-foot game to win. That's maturity in your game and in your career. And that's really what wins it for, the star guys. They understand that, sometimes offense has to take a little bit of a back seat to defense, and then they can produce from there. So that's where I would really, really be scared of Edmonton if I'm Dallas. As for Carolina, I think that's a mirage. I don't see that happening again. I think Florida is going to come back tonight and probably going to close them out. And I think we're looking at Florida going to the Stanley Cup Finals. I just don't see Florida losing 2 games in a row to this Carolina team. I mean, yes, the 4th win they always say is the hardest win to get, but I don't see it. I think they've been outclassed heavily in the 3 previous games. And you know what? You have your backs against the wall win. Carolina got it. They got their first conference finals win since 2006. I think the run is over tonight.
Yeah, I think Carolina, they're a little bit more of a smokescreen because we all said, most of us, Philk and I said Panthers in 5, and Anthony, you gave them 6. The Panthers took game 4 and rested Sam Reinhart, rested Nico Mikkola, and they rested. There was one other guy they rested. AJ Greer. Not that should be the huge difference, but they really couldn't capitalize on a couple power play opportunities that they had. And then Carolina, they got the 1 goal and held on. They did have a goal that was taken back, I think, on an offsides on video review. But I'm not looking at Carolina and thinking that this series is going to go much longer. Maybe one more game. And if it is going to be one more game, I mean, nobody plays on the road like Florida, by the way. So I think Florida is going to snuff this one out tonight. Edmonton, on the other hand, look, if I told you guys before this series that Jay Gottinger would have an .869 save percentage and a 3.55 goals against, you'd be like, what, are you crazy? But he does. That's what he does right now. Stuart Skinner is actually 70 points better than him in save percentage. And he's going to have to be better. Jay Gottinger is going to have to step up, and it's going to start tonight. First things first, win a home game. Second, and then you have to win on the road. And then you're playing for all the marbles. So as much as it might want to sound like, 3-0 is a little bit different than 3-1. Well, when you have the home ice advantage, you have to just win one. I mean, Carolina already had one step in the 4 wins they have to go to get back. And you saw against the Rangers, it's hard to do last year where it looked like they were going to force game 7. I just don't see that with the Panthers. The Panthers are they're going to snuff this out. That's what they're going to do. And yeah, as Puck Rock is saying right here, good to see you, boys.
Start booking that Outer Banks trip. Get ready to learn Outer Banks, Carolina.
But Anthony, I'm going to go right back to you on this one. Are you excited for this Stanley Cup Finals rematch? And I guess as a little bit of a teaser, not only are you excited, but do you think each team has learned from last year?
Muted.
Yeah, I'm excited. Typically for like a rematch, sometimes it gets stale, but last Stanley Cup final last year, I thought it was great. So I think these two teams playing again, I think it would definitely be a good series. And I mean, as for if they learned a lot, yeah, I mean, you heard like some of that raw emotion from McDavid in the locker room from that series. And, you saw when they lost, they're all sitting in silence, and you hear over the PA, McDavid's the Conn Smythe winner, and he just sat there, no one's saying anything. And, when teams lose, players say they remember that feeling in that moment, how it felt, and how they never want to go through it again, and you learn from it. So, yeah, I would say for the Oilers, that group going to their first Stanley Cup final, I think they could pull a lot from last year and use that as motivation to not let the same result occur again. So, yeah, I absolutely think that the Oilers are on something, and the Panthers probably learned that, against that Oiler team, no lead is safe, whether in a game or the actual series. I mean, Draisaitl and McDavid are just that good, that dangerous. They could flip a switch in a second and take over a game or take over a series. So I think for them, there's that learning experience too, that it's not over until it's over. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good hockey. And I think, it's really, for me, that series would be a toss-up. I'm not going to give my pick yet because that's putting the cart before the horse. But, I think it would be a good series. I mean, if it was the Stanley Cup Final again next year, then maybe I'd be like, it's a little stale. I want to see something new. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Anthony, I got to agree with you on that. For as much as that series was 3 games one way, 3 games the other way, and then game 7 for all the marbles. That was a great series last year. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. And, I want to put numbers through the cruncher too, because I don't want to just automatically say one side's going to win, since I had Edmonton going out in the first round this year and thought I was a genius after 2 games. Phil, what about you? Are you excited for this potential rematch?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I would rather see different teams, but I mean, as somebody who's a fan of McDavid, I mean, either way, I mean, I feel like if he loses, he might be like, okay, you know what, things are not going to get done here. If he wins, he might stay in Edmonton for all we know. I feel like the series could have an impact on his free agency after next season. I mean, I know that's looking a little too far ahead, but I know that there are a lot of Ranger fans that are hoping, or any fan in general, are just hoping that he hits free agency so their team has a shot at him. But yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't want to see Florida win again, but I mean, it's very possible. Dallas would probably be a cool story for Dallas to win it, but I don't know if I see them getting past Edmonton. I just think that Edmonton is just too fast of a team, and I think they're probably a better matchup against Florida because they can play with the type of speed that Florida attacks with, and they could use that against them. So I definitely think that it's inevitable, but yeah. Am I as excited? Yeah, I think they just need to change up the playoff format overall. I really do. I'm tired of seeing the same matchups over and over and over again. And I want to see something different. I want to see like new rivalries being, spawned and birthed. It just doesn't feel as organic the way they have it now.
Yeah, this one is a little bit more, I guess, if you want to try to make it, it's like Michael Jordan versus Magic Johnson and the Lakers. I'm not going to go so far to say Lakers Celtics. That's a completely different thing entirely. There's a buzz about it, but also kind of not. You're going to have the 2 best players in the game on a team that's playing exceptionally well versus the champion who they just learned their lesson and they've been knocking at the door for greatness for a while. I think you might still call it. So there are going to be people calling them a dynasty, even though they're just back-to-back winners, because that's how much we've watered that down. But there is a little bit of a feel of 2009 where you had Malkin and Crosby going up against the Red Wings and Datsuk and those guys. And Malkin, of course, winning the Conn Smythe. I don't even know who Edmonton's Conn Smythe Trophy winner might be. Maybe it is McDavid. Maybe he finally wins one.
It's got to be McDavid right now. Guy's leading. He's, again, leading all postseason scorers and has the most assists, 19 assists, 24 points. So, yeah, he's definitely the leader.
Well, he's played a much better 2-way game in these playoffs. Not saying that he was a bad 2-way player to begin with. We'll talk more about that in our Pick'em segment later on. But just to go kind of one last thought about this. Yeah, Phil, I as much as I want to change things up, I also don't, because I think divisional play is important. And I just don't want to go to 1-16. Somebody suggested that. I'm like, absolutely not. Because then if you're the number 1 seed and you have to fly from Edmonton,
just 1 through 8.
Yeah,
1 through 8. Give the 2 division winners the top 2 spots, and the other 6 spots are sought out by just points. Doesn't matter who it is from what division.
Right, and you can still do brackets from there. You just do teams do not reseed, and then there you go. Although I always did like that they did reseed, but the NHL wants to do brackets. So, kind of the last. What was I forgot where I was going with this now. So. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see whether or not McDavid can actually get this done like the way Crosby and Malkin were able to do it. And if Stuart Skinner ends up stopping Aaron Ekblad the way that I couldn't think of a different defenseman for them. The way Marc-Andre Fleury stopped Nick Lidstrom to basically win the Stanley Cup, that would be incredible. All right. Our A block is actually incredibly short today, guys. So we're going to do our DraftKings break and then go into Bar Talk. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. If any of you were watching yesterday, my wife referred to this as layup talk. So this just means I got to step my game up. But everybody, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on these NHL topics based on our choice of drink. You're so confident that you're buying around, so I'll have a beer. Oh, God, I need a shot. Play along down in the comments below, everybody.
Before we get going, though,
yes,
I just want to say one thing. For any of you who watched ESPN or have been for a while, Around the Horn wrapped up after 23 years the other day. And I don't know if any of you have kind of seen this, but we kind of formatted this a little bit after that. And I was a huge fan of Around the Horn growing up.
So was I.
I used to watch the happy hour between that and Pardon the Interruption, which is still going to continue on ESPN. But after 23 years, ESPN decided to, cancel Around the Horn. So I want to give big congrats and a shout out to Tony Reali, and the guys on Around the Horn, and just a great one, and sad to see it go. It was definitely something that I always look forward to doing. I used to call it the happy hour with that PTI back to back. So definitely congrats to them. And, they kind of influenced this a little bit. So thank you for that.
Yeah, they did. And you know me, I always like to do themes. This one was born out of St. Patrick's Day that was coming up. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Around the Horn. This is our version of Buy or Sell. And it's been fun. It's been fun developing this and continuing to develop this and other segments that we have got going on. After all, Who Says No is another one that is growing and being refined more and more.
Yeah. It's crazy because I remember when Max Kellerman was doing it, and Max Kellerman started it, and then they replaced him with Tony Reali. I'm like, who is this young looking dude? I can't even believe that Tony Reali was 23 when he started doing Around the Horn.
Well, he was stat boy over on Pardon the Interruption.
He was PTI stat boy, and then they started Around the Horn, and then he replaced Max. So,
well, we got our list of topics that we're going to go over right now, and don't forget to buy around, beer, or shot for this. And we're going to start with some work Mike Sullivan did in his previous stop in Pittsburgh. But under Mike Sullivan, Chris Letang, Justin Schultz, they posted career highs in points. And I'm actually going to start this one with Anthony. I'll flip the Rangers and the Islanders today. Anthony, Adam Fox will win his second Norris Trophy and post career best numbers under Mike Sullivan.
Will win. Fox is one of the better elite defensemen in the league. That's definite, but it's hard for me to add. Like, are you talking like just in general, like how long however long?
Yeah,
As long as
just
Mike
in
Sullivan's
general.
the coach.
Just in general.
What?
Just in general. It's
Just
not
in
this
general?
year. Not just this year.
I mean, I feel like the only way I'm gonna go Beer. I think he certainly is talented enough. He can. I know last year at times he was called out by a lot of Ranger fans. He certainly didn't look as good as he did in the past. He seemed a little slower, which is a concern because he's never been a fast skater. But I mean, for me, the main thing in with this is, I mean, now you got Quinn Hughes, who just I feel like continues to go to another level offensively, and then all hail Cale, obviously, Cale Makar. Those two are just point machines, and I feel like they're always going to be good. They're always going to get the eyes on them. So he's going to have to contend with those two with trying to win another Norris. But I mean, I feel like this is a layup in terms of it's got to be a Beer. Kenny, sure, yes, he's in that upper echelon, but to say definitively when there's, like I said, those guys like Hughes and McCarr, I can't say round definitively.
Phil, what do you think? Do you want to be definitive?
I'll go around. I'll go around. I don't think this is a layup. If you want to call it a beer layup, I mean, I think that's kind of a contradiction there. But I see him having better partners in the future. I see Sullivan changing some things around, and I think that at some point, I think he's going to get another one. I do. I think he's too good not to. I wonder how this offseason goes because Makar is a free agent after McDavid year. Do you see? Yeah, Makar's not going anywhere. I feel more confident about Makar staying in Colorado than I do McDavid in Edmonton. I'll tell you that right now, especially if the Oilers lose this year again and they don't win the Stanley Cup. So, I think eventually he will. I think Cale Makar will probably win another. I think Quinn Hughes probably will win another. I think these are probably the three best defensemen in the league for my money. I think we're going to see others elevate to that point. I think Rasmus Dahlin, if he starts making the necessary adjustments to his game, improving defensively, I think that he's going to be in the conversation for a while. But I do think these three kind of have it really kind of like locked down as like your 1, 2, and 3 best defensemen in the league right now, and for the foreseeable future.
Do you think Roman Josi gets back in the Norris combo at some point?
It's possible, but he's getting up there in age, and that's my biggest concern. Not only that, but the offense just isn't there in Nashville right now to help out his offensive numbers. Like, he had his worst season this past year in a very, very long time. Like, he wasn't even on pace for like 56 points, which he had in 20. Like, we were talking about like 2016, 17, where he had 49 points. I don't think he was on pace for those numbers.
He only played in 53 games. This was an injury
but the pacing is still not good. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's two other guys you guys didn't mention, though, the potential Norris Trophy winners. You got Josh Morrissey, who might be like this decade's Ryan McDonough. Yeah. He's that guy that's really good, but just on the outside of Norris Trophy like consideration. You got Miro Heiskanen, who everybody is expecting that if he has any Norris Trophy season that's even remotely close, you get the feeling every writer wants to hand him this award. So, and then we talked about this at the beginning of the year. You had maybe up to about 7 guys that could really challenge for the Norris Trophy. But you look at the work that Sullivan did with both Schultz and Chris Letang, and he really rounded out their games really well. Letang ended up becoming a truly more than just a one-dimensional defenseman, even though I think one year he was, let me just double check this, guys. He was third in Norris voting in 2013. That was the year that Subban won it. And although I'm pretty sure in that year, that's when Shea Weber. Nope.
Weber was I think the second. He was the runner-up.
Yeah, how did Shea Weber?
I think Weber was the runner-up 2 years in a row. He was the runner-up in 2012 to Carlson, and then I'm pretty sure he was also the runner-up in 2013 to Subban.
Weber lost out by five writers, putting him fifth, and one non-first place vote that year. So I mean, that's just, or sorry, that was. Oh
no, sorry.
That was Ryan Suter. I'm sorry.
He was the runner-up in 2011 and 2012.
Yeah, I had the wrong year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He was, because I thought it was 2012 and 2013. He actually he wasn't a finalist in 2013.
But if you apply that to Adam Fox, and Adam Fox can actually just improve on his numbers and also solidify his defense partner. I mean, it hasn't been solid for, in all actuality, at least this season. If not, you want to go into last season. Who's his defense partner going to be? And I've cautioned everybody to say that Brian Leach's career was never the same without Jeff Bukaboom, even though he was still obviously a great defenseman. But let's go over to the other New York team that made headlines. If you haven't seen our coverage of the Islanders naming Mathieu Darche GM, go check that out, because we all had the Islanders taking him, and we're all very excited for the Islanders. But Philk, starting with you, switching these around. Mathieu Darche needs to focus on Patrick Waugh's future with the Islanders before he focuses on the first overall pick.
You know what? I'm going to go shot. And the reason I'm going to go shot is because that you need to figure out what you're doing with this pick first. You can address Waugh afterwards. You have an entire offseason to do it. I would just make sure that you have it done by the end of July, if you ask me. That's it. You want a guy to formulate his plan for training camp and everything like that, to come in and do all that stuff. I don't think you need to have that Waugh's future figured out before the first pick. Get your scouting staffs together, get everybody together, get everybody in their room, and get everybody on the same page with this pick. I mean, that's really, like, I think that's job number one for them right now. Because if you mess that pick up because you just didn't have everybody on the same page, then that would be one of the biggest travesties in this franchise's history. You get the first overall pick and you make the wrong pick, or you make a pick that, some are not happy with and some are happy with, and it's your first move as general manager. It's not a good start for Mathieu Darche then at that point. Get this figured out. Then go figure out what you want to do with Patrick Waugh. You know my stance on him. I've been very vocal about it for a while. But the first overall pick, or what you do with that, has to be priority number one right now.
Anthony?
I think it's a shot. And, I mean, for the reasons Phil said, but I think it's also a shot because I don't think Waugh is going anywhere. Actually, today, the Islanders announced Darche is going to be introduced to the media and do his presser tomorrow at 11 a.m. And I feel like if he was going to make a coaching change, I feel like it would have happened, honestly, probably today. And then this way, they talk about everything. He's going to be introduced tomorrow, and then to let Waugh go at a later time. I mean, it's certainly still possible, but I just think if he was going to let Waugh go, I think it probably would have happened already, to be honest with you, before his presser. But overall, though, the pick is the more pressing issue. You need to Darche needs to meet with the Islanders scouting staff that's already been in place because they've already done the majority of the legwork. And honestly, in the draft that Phil and I covered in Dallas, that was Lou's first. He had just got hired. That was his first year. Garth Snow is still at the draft table because him and his team did all the scouting, so he was there for it. So I don't know how much of a. I mean, sure, Darche is going to have an input. I mean, he's the general manager of the team now, but I think in terms of the scouting decisions, a lot of that has been already done, and I think he's going to defer to them. So, but I mean, yeah, overall though, I think this is a shot.
I still have lots of questions, guys, on Patrick Waugh. I do. What is he as a head coach in the NHL? Is he a guy that loves the veterans? Is he a guy that is a defensive-oriented team? Are they offensive-oriented? Are they? I mean, what's the strength in his coaching? I still don't see it. And he's been a head coach now 6 years in the NHL. And we've gone back and forth on this, and that's the reason why there's a question. You got to decide whether or not this guy is the future of this team. And don't give me let's see how next year goes. Because, all right, let's say they go with next year and you end up bringing up, and Hagens ends up making the team. Let's say it's Hagens or Schaefer or Misa. Any one of those guys, they end up making the team. And they decide to go with them. We don't think they are. All of us think whoever's going to be drafted in the top 3, they're probably not going to be in the NHL next season. And then they end up making the team, and then they end up dealing with the guy that, let's be honest, he's a little bit questionable in the way he handles his players. There's things about it that's a little bit just uncertain, to say the least. And I'm not going to risk my franchise and the guy that's going to be the face of my franchise to be this. So if the Islanders are going to stick with Waugh, and it sounds like they're going to, they better know damn well what they got coaching the team next year. That's just, look, if that's a hot take, that's a hot take. That's my point on that. I'll gladly, I haven't used these in a while, but I had the Flames for us. I guess I got rid of them all. All right. Anyway, moving on, guys, to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the team from the Metropolitan Division, the Carolina Hurricanes, finally won an Eastern Conference Finals game for the first time since 2006. To put this in perspective, the Rangers, Islanders, Devils, Buffalo Sabres, and Ottawa Senators won Eastern Conference Finals games in that time span. But I don't know, guys. Anthony, does Carolina need to make a major change to win the Stanley Cup, assuming that they get eliminated tonight or in this series?
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to go round on this. I just think they need a retool. They need to, first off, add more scoring, because I think behind Aho and Jarvis, they don't have enough offensive firepower. Stahl at this point is still very good defensively, but he doesn't give you much offensively anymore. Jordan Martinook, I love him as a bottom 6 player. He's useful. He's got an engine, but I mean, again, bottom 6 player. Kakiniemi, disappointing, overpaid, bottom 6 player. Svechnikov, underachieved this year. Could just be aberration. He could come back and, be what they thought he'd be a couple of years ago, for sure. But point is, there's not much there offensively after those 2 guys in Jarvis and Aho. So I think they need to not overhaul their team, because like we talked about, I still think they're going to be, a top 3 finish in the Metro next season, just because they're a good team. And also the rest of the Metro is kind of uncertain right now. So I think they're the constant that I think will be there. But if they actually want to get to the Stanley Cup final, they have to do something to change up the makeup of their team. More scoring, maybe a little bit more. I don't know how to put it, because they do play a hard-nosed style, but a more, I don't know what the word, sandpaper. I mean, I know Martinook plays that role, but I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. They just
that's part of the problem, Anthony.
Yeah. They just need a change. They need a change. They got a good coach. I love his system, but in the playoffs, it falls short when they play a superior team. And I think, I don't think Marner's going to go there, but I think that's going to be the type of acquisition they're going to look to make to try to add a piece to put him over the top.
Phil?
Get the hoop. Get the hoop. I've been saying this. Just get the hoop. It's Carol. I can't even agree with this because Carolina just doesn't have the depth, and they can't play that way. They don't have center depth. They've never addressed that number 2 center issue behind Sebastian Aho. They've never addressed the goaltending. Their defense is now worse than it was last year, if you ask me. It's just it's not good enough. And Brind'Amour, when he goes up against the better teams and the better coaches, he can never make the adjustments. You're not going to win with that. You're not. I know Brind'Amour's a god down there because he helped bring a title down there back in 2006, and they love him down there and everything. But I don't think this is the case. I think it's more Dundon than it is Brind'Amour. I don't think Dundon doesn't like to spend. And I don't think that I honestly don't think Sebastian Aho is a good enough number 1 center to win you a Stanley Cup either.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's better served as a 2 behind a better number 1. But again, I don't think it's enough. I really don't. I think you need to retool. I think you need to move on from all this, like Anthony said. But they need sweeping changes. And I would explore moving Andrei Svechnikov.
Yep.
He had $7.75 million for the production he gave you this year. And for a guy that every year in the playoffs seems to take himself out of the game by taking dumb, undisciplined, and dirty penalties. I mean, good player, but not worth it. And if they go and get Mitch Marner, then okay. They're just going to fall into the same pattern. They're going to end up being Toronto. That's what it's going to end up being. You're going to turn yourself into that type of team, and eventually you'll put yourself into cap hell because you can't figure it out. So, yeah, Carolina needs to absolutely tear everything down and start new.
Yeah, Carolina right now, Svechnikov has 8 goals in the playoffs, none of them against the Florida Panthers. He has the majority of that work, obviously all of it's against the metropolitan teams, but we all admit we're a little bit down. This is the reason why Artemi Panarin is getting criticism. Because when you go up against the big boys and you finally got a team that, you really got to match up physically against, Svech is kind of not done the job. So that starts with him. And look, I have questions on the Rod Brind'Amour scheme. Is that good enough in the regular season that can win you a game or 2 or games against different opponents every single night? But when you got to play that same opponent over and over again in a 7-game series, I'm not sure if that scheme's good enough. And they're passing up shot attempts for wide open guys going to the points. There's a lot of questions that we have. We've gone over this. But the other thing, just to hit the nail on the head, Sebastian Aho is a very good center. I thought there was another level to his game. I was wrong. He's either a weak number 1 or a really good number 2. Maybe address that. Maybe try to find somebody that goes in and is the number 1 center over him. Jordan Staal is a shade of what he used to be. And, I mean, you stay away from defensemen like Dmitry Orlov. I mean, that just when it comes to playoff times, he's just not the defenseman for Carolina. He was good in Washington, just not the same, not what Carolina needs. So I think there's major changes, but it's also like, as we were talking about when Anthony was on, you're just not really sure what to put your finger on. But one thing's for certain, we've been saying it from the rooftops for years now. They got to improve their goaltending. And it's basically the same level it's been when Peter Mrazek was there. All right. Let's look at the team that they're playing against, guys. Sam Bennett, 10 goals. He's got 9 goals, leads the NHL playoffs. He's tied with Leon Draisaitl right now. He's going to be UFA at season's end. Phil, Sam Bennett will get $10 million AAV this offseason?
I'm gonna say shot, and I'm not. I don't think it's a shot layup because I think there's a chance that he gets above 8.5. I think there might be some team that goes full Glenn Sather, Bobby Holik form 2002 and just absolutely gives him way more than he really deserves based on his numbers. But I don't see 10 million. 10 million's a lot. Like you're going to have to be like a point per game player, like at least to get that type of figure. And I don't see him getting that. I can see Toronto giving him like 8.5, 8.75 though. I can easily see them doing that. And I think that the sweeping changes that are going to happen in Toronto to address their lack of like jam up front he's going to be the guy that they're going to target first and foremost to do it. So I can definitely see that Toronto going to that like 8.5, 8.75 range to get the deal done to bring him there.
Anthony?
Yeah, that's a shot. I don't think he's going to get 10. I think that's just crazy talk out there. I mean, he's proven he's a playoff performer. That's what teams are going to be drawn to. He's the type of player that this time of year you could win with. But still, 10 million is a lot for a guy during the regular season. Doesn't put up monstrous numbers. So I think a team will definitely give him north of 8, 8.5, maybe even bordering on 9. But I don't think he's going to get 10. I don't.
Hey, I'm gonna go shot with you guys, make it a hat trick. I'll tell you what, it should be. He should not get 10 million, but he's also going to be in part of a bidding war. And there's a lot of teams. He's probably the happiest guy looking at this free agent class. This free agent class could have been nuts. I didn't even have Sam Bennett listed as a free agent to be when I did the recap of how the free agent class could be a little bit insane, inspired by the list that you gave us during our group chat, Anthony. But looking at it now, you basically got Mitch Marner and Sam Bennett and Brock Besser. It's basically your free agent class right now. And you compare it to next season, that could be off the charts. I also want to just say to Ranger fans, everybody kind of get a grip on thinking Connor McDavid's coming, because we'll get into that later. We'll have some discussion on that. But there's a chance that people are going to look at him and think that he's this god two-way forward. Buyer beware when it comes to Sam Bennett. I don't see a $10 million forward right there. Yes, he's involved in a lot of stuff that happens, but I mean, the Sam Bennett on Calgary, that might come back. So we'll see about that when he moves on to another team and maybe doesn't have Barkov to go right behind. Guys, right now, Dallas, Phil, you were going to say something?
I was going to say one last thing with Bennett. They've been looking for a guy to be their Doug Gilmour for a very long time. Sam Bennett played for the Kingston Frontenacs, wore 93 for them, which Doug Gilmour wore in Toronto, famously wore in Toronto. I definitely think that there is a connection there for Sam Bennett, and I definitely think Toronto's going to overpay him badly.
That's a recipe for disaster, especially when you got a brand new president that's coming in, a team that hasn't succeeded. But Brad Living isn't going to just throw money at nobody. Dallas is trailing Edmonton 3-1 in the conference finals right now. This is their third straight conference finals for the Dallas Stars. Guys, I think the number is something ridiculous. Like 6 of the last 7 involve Pete DeBoer. I have to go check that number once again. But Phil, Pete DeBoer has peaked with the Dallas Stars. Again, this is also is assuming that he's eliminated.
This is a really tough one. I'm going to have to go with beer. Like, I want to say round and away, but like Wyatt Johnston's been completely underproductive. Like, I mean, his numbers have dropped off since the first round. Matt Duchene's been underproductive. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Dallas's playoff scoring, Mikko Rantanen has 21 points and is tied for the playoff lead in goals. And then the next highest scorer is Thomas Harley with 12 points. Like Rupe Hintz he missed a game. But he's back. Mikael Granlund's production has fallen off a cliff since the first round against and then Tyler Seguin only 8 points in 17 games. I mean, Duchene 6 points in 17 games, not enough. Mason Marchment 1 goal. Steele, Duchene, and Marchment all have 1 goal. Miro Heiskanen has as many goals as they do and has played 10 less games. Jason Robertson's been a ghost. 4 points. 4 points for Robertson. He's missed time, yes, but 4 points. It's not enough. I don't know. Like, I really do want to say round, but it's like, is there a level of development for these guys? Is there another level for Jason Robertson and for Wyatt Johnston and for Rupe Hintz? Like, as if there is another level, then maybe DeBoer can win with this team. But they need to address the right side of their defense so badly. And I said that. And I said Cody Ceci was not enough, and they did nothing to address that. So that was my biggest concern about them against Winnipeg. But yeah, I'm going to say beer. I mean, I really am leaning towards round, but I'm going to have to say beer just because I can't definitively say it.
I definitively think he's got a shelf life, and there aren't many times where I said before we aired, he's sort of like the new Laviolette. Like, he has success everywhere he goes. But the problem is he's diminishing returns every single time, kind of with the exception of one place where he got better and better every single season, and that was San Jose. San Jose, he started with just under a 600 save percentage, on just under a 600 winning percentage, and then they won the Western Conference. Then they were 604, 610, 616, and you're going, wow, that's amazing. And he also helped get Erik Karlsson paid. But they were able to get to the Western Conference Finals twice with San Jose, twice with Vegas, and now 3 more times with Dallas. But the thing is, and by the way, it's kind of eerie with Dallas. His winning percentage in Dallas is 526, 526, 529. This is a guy that knows how to coach. Oh, by the way, that was his playoff winning percentage, just for the record. This is a guy that knows how to coach. I fully expect them to push Edmonton to game 6. Although Edmonton, they're starting to become a team that when they see blood in the water, they make sure that they go and finish the job. Pete DeBoer is a very good coach, but very good coaches can have their messages wear out, unless you're John Cooper, who seems to have his go on forever. Although he's been struggling as well. Well, to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals, I should say. This is a tough one, Phil. I don't want to throw any dirt on him, but I am going to go beer on this. And just kind of, I don't know what Dallas needs to do in order to get over this hump. He's clearly been able to do it. He's coached 2 different teams in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Devils and the Sharks. We all expected Dallas to be back there. We put them in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. We put them in this year before the season. Hell, we even put them in, some of us, all 3 of us, last week. But it looks like this team is never going to get it done. And is that on DeBoer? I don't know. Because he's got youth on one side, more youth coming up. I mean, I'm trying to make heads or tails out of this, but I think they might have peaked. That's the other problem. All right. Anthony's not here right now. We're going to get back to him in a moment. But you look at somebody else, you can't just figure out, Phil. Stuart Skinner. He started out the playoffs his first 2 games. 810 save percentage, 611 goals against average in those 2 games. By the way, no surprise, you're 0-2 in those games. Since he went back in the net and was the goalie of record. Oh, sorry. This is after game 3 versus Vegas. So since game 4 versus Vegas, he's 5-1, 957 save percentage, and a 1.15 goals against average. Phil, Stuart Skinner is proving that he's Stanley Cup worthy.
Beer. I'm not going to take this small little run and go too crazy for it. Playing better, but I mean, he's still got to win it to really prove that he's worthy. So I'm only going to go beer here.
I think that's the only thing I could do too. I can only go beer. The way he's looked in losses and just being porous in the losses. Let's just get back to him on that. Him with in the games that he's lost in the playoffs, just this playoff year, he's versus Dallas, 815 save percentage, versus Vegas, 833 save percentage, and then versus LA, 821, 800. So he hasn't topped 833 in games that he's lost. In the games that he's won, shutout, 971, 966. Someone please explain to me this. If you get a goal on him, your chances are you get 2 or 3. How is that even possible? I don't get it, Phil. And you know what? He's kind of proving the reason why you don't need elite goaltending to win the playoffs. It helps when you have 2 elite centermen. I mean, that helps. But
I mean, his last 5 games, he's 4-1 with 2 shutouts. And he's allowed 7 goals in those 5 games. 5 of those came in that one loss where he lost 6-3. I mean, he went 29 of 28 against Dallas. All right, so going back, he shut out Vegas to end that series. 24 save shutout. Then he lost game 1 against Dallas where they had that epic third period collapse. You thought they had that game on hand, but that third period, they just completely fell apart.
mm-hmm.
Then he comes back, 25 save shutout. 33 out of 34, and they win 6-1. 28 out of 29, and they win 4-1. And, I mean, it's weird because it's not been all shut out or nothing. I mean, he's let up 1 goal in his last 2 games apiece. But, again, this is why I always look. This is really it, this post right here. A better team can cover up a bad goalie, but if that goalie gets hot, that's really what it comes down to. It's hot goaltending. It's not elite goaltending that wins. It's the goaltender that gets hot at the right time. No one's going to tell you that Jordan Binnington is elite. But Jordan Binnington has this thing where he can raise his game come playoff time or the bigger games, as you saw in the 4 Nations. So it's what it comes down to. It's the Bill Ranford syndrome. Cam Ward, whatever you want to call it. Matt Murray won 2 cups. So
and there's the Igor Shesterkin syndrome. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm still waiting on that one. No, it's you build from defense. You build from your defense, and that's the way you do it. Either from scheme or from the defenseman, the quality defenseman that you have in there. They're winning. They don't even have Matthias Ekholm. Like, think about that one for a minute. That's insane. But look, Skinner is making the saves now. How can you be so bad to start and then so good afterwards? It makes absolutely no sense. He's making the saves and just making routine saves, not setting your team back, keeping your team's mental focus in there. That's what you need to be doing. And he was doing it. Calvin Pickard was doing it. If Pickard didn't get injured, I believe, in game 3, that's the reason why he was out. I think Edmonton would still be in this situation. But all credit to Skinner, because you know what? You post 3 shutouts in your last 6 games when you come back. He's just making every save that he can. And again, it just proves yet again, you don't need absolute elite goaltending to win a Stanley Cup. One guy that was in that elite tier, you could say, at the beginning of the year, Philk, but kind of dropped off a little bit, Jeremy Swayman. After his holdout, Swayman this year, 7 games below 500, which is not easy to do in the current NHL. 892 save percentage, 311 goals against average, and they were all career lows. But Jeremy Swayman went to the Worlds and represented the United States. At the Worlds, 3-0, 921 save percentage, and a 1.61 goals against average, including 2 shutouts. One of them happened in the championship game where they won 1-0, and Tage Thompson had the game-winning goal. More on that in a moment. But Jeremy Swayman is still an elite goaltender.
I don't think Jeremy Swayman was truly elite, so I'm going to say shot.
Okay.
I never thought of him as truly elite. I thought he was like right outside that tier at some point, but he was relatively unproven because his sample size was small. And I don't think the worlds will ever do that for somebody. The Worlds is it's a second tier tournament. I'm sorry, it is. You're not getting the best on best. I mean, if you've seen some of the guys that made USA, some of the guys that made Canada, you're like, these are like 4th line NHLers and depth defensemen. Like Michael Kesselring was playing at the Worlds. And Kesselring's a good player. I would definitely not mind having him on the Rangers at all. But Kesselring is not making an international best on best tournament. Like he's just not. Neither is Brett Berard. Neither is Will Cooley. Like those guys are not making it to the Olympics or the Four Nations or World Cup of Hockey. It's just there's no argument to that. And it's nothing against them because they're all good, talented, and useful players, but there is a glut of talent. I don't recall saying that. When did I say that?
No. And again,
when did I say that?
He didn't say that, even though McKinnon and Crosby both made Team Canada. We know that.
Sure.
Anthony,
look at some of the other players on the roster. Look at some of the other players on the roster. I mean, if we're going to play words in the mouth, then why don't we just go down through the rosters and we take a look at what their rosters are? So Canada World Championship roster. Let's see what this roster is right now. So Macklin Celebrini made it. Is Macklin Celebrini making an Olympic roster right now? No, definitely not. Not with the glut of talent that they have. I mean, the preliminary rosters were not even that good. Okay, so it was McKinnon, Braden Shen, Travis Konechny. Konechny, okay. Horvat ain't making it. Cooley, he's not making it. Fantilli might make Canada one day. Philip Deneau would not make an Olympic team. Barrett Hayton would definitely not make an Olympic team or Four Nations. Tyson Forster, Ryan O'Reilly, Kent Johnson.
Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly, especially at this point in his career.
Travis Sanheim. I mean, Sanheim made the Four Nations, but I even said that was a questionable pick. Mike Matheson. Noah Dobson's not making Canada's Olympic team. Riker Evans. Jared Spurgeon. No offense to Jared Spurgeon. Mackenzie Weegar. Brandon Montour. Come on. Dylan Garand was one of their 3 goalies for Canada.
Which
Come
also
on.
says the state of Canadian goaltending. But Anthony, Jeremy Swayman's performance at the World proves that he's still an elite goaltender.
Beer, I guess. The Worlds don't get much attention because it's happening at the same time as the Stanley Cup playoffs. The talent level, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of good players decide after their season ends to go play because they still want to play. So, has some of the names on Canada you heard, Crosby, McKinnon, good players playing that tournament, but I like to see him do it again at the NHL level. With that said, though, I'm not ready to say because of one down year, all of a sudden Swayman's not considered a top-end goalie because he was previous to this year. So I don't think one bad year kind of changes that. I also don't think this tournament proves that he's, also back either. So, for me, this is a strong beer here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go beer on this one as well, only because you're only going to be as good as the defense in front of you. You put a good defense in front of him, he's going to be much better than what he was this year with the Boston Bruins. And of course, obviously, scheme too. We just talked about this with Stuart Skinner, and I got to say, it applies to Jeremy Swayman too. I still think he's there. I mean, his numbers this season, oh my goodness, they are like a stark drop off from his career numbers. And I think a full training camp, even though everybody wants to say, oh, no, it's not that big. It's sort of like a running back in football. You miss training camp, you're behind the 8 ball, and then you don't recover pretty much the rest of the year. But Anthony, we're going to stick with the World Championships because the United States wins the IIHF World Championship for the first time in 92 years. That's 1933, everybody. USA's World Championship is meaningful.
In what context are we like? What meaningful to what?
This is kind of vague.
It's kind of vague for a reason, guys. Are we going to look at this and start saying, "Oh, USA Hockey has made it"? I don't think. Well, I'll start it off then. I'm actually going to go shot on this. It's nice to know that we could send players that are, and I say we because it's America. We could send players to the World Championships and win a championship, and you don't need our best. Most of the time, your best is already still there. They're still playing right now. I mean, Jason Robertson's still playing. There's other ones. I'm just picking up him at the moment. Jake Ottinger is still playing for Dallas. There's plenty of good American hockey players. I mean, they didn't exactly send the cream of the crop over there. I didn't get to see whether or not Matthews made the trip over. I didn't see whether or not Eichel was there. I think their captain was Brady Shea, if I recall correctly. But when I'm thinking about great moments in USA hockey history, I'm not going to be thinking about this, and I'm not going to be putting it. I'm not sure if I'd even put it top 10. That's just what I think about that. So I'll cede back to you on this one, Ant.
Still, it's a little meaningful to the actual winning the tournament, or meaningful just in USA hockey. Like
USA hockey history.
I mean, this is I think this is an easy shot. I mean, I think first off, I think a lot of even pretty strong hockey fans don't necessarily care about this tournament or pay much attention to it. I mean, a lot of players, even if your team doesn't make the playoffs, a lot of guys just had a long season. They're nursing injuries. They don't want, like I said, they don't want to play, or a lot of guys pass up on it. So for me, this tournament is cool that they won. Don't get me wrong. And also, 1930, whatever you said, 1932 or 1933 is a long ass time. But I mean, for me, this is still a shot. Like me, I didn't watch a lick of the tournament. I love hockey. Like I don't know. I don't really think it's very meaningful at all.
Yeah, by the way, Dylan Larkin and then Jack Eichel did make it there as well. Although it's saying Matthew Tkachuk was there. He clearly wasn't.
No,
So
Matthew Tkachuk was not there, and I mean, it's not a true best on best tournament. And I don't know who it was that just compared it to the Four Nations in the
No.
chat, but no, it's not the Four Nations. It's not the World Cup of Hockey. It's not the Olympics. It's a second rate tournament. And yeah, it's nice that the U.S. won. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the guys that went there and got gold medals. But it's a second rate tournament. And that's what it comes down to. And we were all hyped up about Capo Caco succeeding in that tournament against men and how he went from, under 18s to World Juniors to World Championships, and he won like all three in like a year and change span.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, like we're gonna start to say that the World Championships, where many players aren't playing and are missing this, it's all right. So sure, maybe the hockey families do, and maybe the players, it's meaningful to them. It was meaningful for Mika Zibanejad to go and have fun playing hockey again because he wasn't having fun playing hockey in New York this season. Okay, cool. But overall, in the overall grand scheme of things, it's really not that meaningful to many. I mean, sure, it was nice to see, the U.S. break their drought, if you will, but it's not a tournament that gets a ton of eyes on it. Yeah, it's played in Switzerland, where a lot of teams are not gonna, a lot of fans are not gonna be able to watch it because it's middle of the day. So for me, it's just that. I mean, I'm gonna say just beer because it is to a certain point, but this would have to be answered on like a grading scale. In like a 1 to 10, I would say maybe it's like a 4.
The games are played in Switzerland in front of those rowdy Swiss crowds. I imagine them being like the Neutronians in Futurama. Anthony?
The only thing that was meaningful about this tournament was that after USA won it, the players brought Johnny Gaudreau's jersey and put it in front of the trophy. That was really the most meaningful thing to me out of the whole tournament. Just want that.
Agreed. And I think that
I
think that helps to know his legacy is going to live forever.
Yeah, this is actually a good point. It wasn't really marketed all that well here. So,
all right. Well, guys, that's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. And I hope you guys liked it a little. Well, we could have been a little bit better with the topics today, but I was a little bit out of ideas at this point.
Sweden and Denmark. I mean, still, again, it's overseas. A lot of American viewers are not going to be able to watch these games. It's yeah,
and also you're talking about plucking players that aren't playing. Traditionally speaking, best on best, the best players are going to be playing on the best teams, and it was nice to see that some of them could go over there. And I mean, by the way, is Russia playing in that tournament? Anyway.
Yeah, I think people will still be talking about the Four Nations because I think the Four Nations is something that's going to continue happening.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It got a lot of viewership. That was very, very highly viewed throughout the world, including in North America, where it got some of the better views for any hockey game in a very long time. So I don't get why we're trying to make this comparison here.
No, the Four Nations, because I know the Four Nations is a little bit. We were a little bit skeptical going into it, and then the Four Nations, they ratcheted up to 100 as soon as you saw that USA Canada game. So that's one reason why I'm not going to doubt the Four Nations. Just keep doing it. If you want to rotate two of the nations, that's fine.
Here's the issue. You're still watching the NHL. It's not happening the other way around.
Mm.
Only the real diehards are watching the World Championships. And the people that can watch, the the World Championships here, people who have the schedules and the flexibility to be able to watch the games. The Europe still watches the NHL. It's not the other way around. I don't know what else to tell you, but if you don't believe me and you want to disagree with me, go look up the numbers. The TV numbers will actually tell you that what I'm saying is correct.
All right. Let's do some pick'ems, guys. And let's start. Anthony, we'll start with you. The better version of Connor McDavid. Last year, breaking Wayne Gretzky's assist record or playing a true 200-foot game in this playoff.
I mean, as much of an accomplishment was breaking Gretzky's assist record, I'm going to say buying into a 200-foot game in 2025 because, I mean, that just shows how his dedication of how bad he wants to win and win a Stanley Cup, recognizing that, you know, if you keep doing McDavid things, but also, you know, playing a responsible game in his own end, I think that ultimately, I think that goes a long way in helping the Oilers win a cup. So for me, it's that one.
Philk?
This is really close for me because the latter is scary. I'm gonna go with this year's McDavid because he's still leading the playoffs in scoring and assists, and it has clearly put in more effort to defense. Like, it just goes to show you the level of talent he has to be able to do that and still be the most dominating presence on the ice offensively. So, I'm going to have to go with the latter.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the latter too, because when you get a guy that's as talented as he is, offensively speaking, and now he's putting that energy into defense, oh boy. Because as I always say, I'll trust the guys that keep the puck out of the net more than the people that put it in. Because a lot of the guys that just put it in the net, they just like to just play one side of the ice. This is a lot. When you saw him back checking against LA like an absolute terror, that struck some fear into some opposite players' hearts. All right. Who's been more vital to their team's success this postseason, Evander Kane or Brad Marchand? Phil.
The numbers are really close. I'm going to go Evander Kane. And the only reason I'm going to say Kane is because Florida is literally getting that production from like everybody in their lineup. Mm-hmm. The amount of players that are producing for them at a higher level is unlike anything I've ever seen before. I think you'd have to go back to like the 80s Oilers to find this level of production across the board from a team. So I'm going to go with Kane. You can make an argument either way. I don't think there's any wrong answer. But for me, I think Kane has just been a little more important because if you don't have Kane's production, I wonder what happens with Edmonton. If you don't have Marchand's, I think Florida gets by just fine.
He is sixth in the NHL in hits in the playoffs right now. Anthony?
This is a close one because, I mean, not only is Marchand, helping chip in offensively, he's doing typical Brad Marchand things, agitate, get under the skin, and that goes a long way in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, then again, I think for the Oilers to be successful, they were going to need more guys other than Draisaitl, McDavid to step up, and Evander Kane has been one of those, and that's been huge for them. And now with Hyman out, going forward, Kane's going to have to continue that. Pick one for sure. For me, it's a toss-up. I'm leaning slightly more towards Kane, but just by a razor thin margin.
I am actually gonna go Marchand, and I think it's because he was actually the guy that was leading them for a little bit in production. He scored probably what's going to end up being the biggest goal of the Panthers postseason when he won in overtime over the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 3. Not that it's not close. Evander Kane scores some big goals, like a bunch of game-tying goals, or even critical goals for the Oilers in this run. I am leaning Marchand. And again, it's with the agitation. Although Kane is hitting a lot more. Although, by the way, guys, the hit leader in the playoffs, Zach Hyman with 111. And as you guys said before, he's not going to be in the rest of the playoffs. Anthony, which one is more of a bigger surprise? Sorry, let me correct that because that's not good English. Anthony, which is the bigger surprise? Jake Wallman being a plus 13 or 7 Panthers defensemen scoring a goal?
A tough one. I lean towards Jake Wallman being a plus 13 just because, I mean, he's typically been just a guy known for his ability to move the puck and, score points and necessarily be solid defensively. But then again, I know you seem to like plus or minus. I don't. I put almost zero stock into it. I think it's a very flawed stat.
It's an interpretive stat, as I like to say.
So, I mean, yeah. I lean toward Jake Wallman being a plus 13, but it's by a very small margin.
Volk?
I don't like the plus minus stat. I don't. I'm going to interpret this my own way since you said it's interpretive, and Jake Wallman's been good for Edmonton. So Jake Wallman being as good as he's been for Edmonton or the 7 Panthers, I'm going Jake Wallman as good as he has been for Edmonton because I thought Jake Wallman would come in, would be solid. I know there was a time when Jake Wallman was thrusted into the top pairing role in Detroit to replace Ben Sherratt, who had really been kind of dragging Moritz Seider down after Moritz Seider's rookie year in 21-22. But, Jake Wallman was really kind of a blessing there next to Seider for a while, and then they ended up moving him to San Jose. He ends up going to Edmonton. I'm with Wallman on this. Wallman has been really, really good for Edmonton, and he's giving them production better than I even thought that they would be getting from him. So I'm going to go Wallman here.
Look, I think if you have 4 defensemen with goals in the playoffs, that's incredible. To have 7 to tie the NHL record on it, I know I've talked about this on previous shows, but I mean, does anybody even know who? If I butcher his name, it almost doesn't matter. Uvis Balinskis. Anybody even hear of this guy before? He's got a goal in the NHL playoffs.
Can we get that as a sound clip every time that Mark has trouble pronouncing someone's name? We'll just use that as like a sound clip, gaff type, from Mark from now on. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean it's some of these guys I've never heard of them in an NHL in an NHL game. Like Dmitry Kulikov, when was his last playoff goal? That's got to go maybe all the way back to where he played with the Devils or something like that, or Sabres. I meant to say. I think he did play with the Devils at one point. But see, you almost don't even you don't even know what production you're getting from people.
Yeah, he was with the Devils for a short time.
He was with the Devils. Good, I wasn't wrong on that. But this is the production that Florida is getting with people. Yeah, he got a goal here, and he also had it was his first
playoff goal
with Florida.
2015-16 against the Islanders in the first round.
Right, it was his first stint with Florida. I mean, yikes! All credit to Wallman, and yes, guys, I use plus minus as a bit of a gauge. Is it a little bit old fashioned? Yeah, but it still works a lot better than whatever BS number that they're throwing out there right now. It is a stat you do have to look at and interpret a little bit because I do love talking about it when it's you
What
got
BS
a team.
number are you talking about? What metric are you talking about when you say
Plus minus? I know. We always talk about. Everybody wants to say it's antiquated and it has no place. I just don't think there's perfect place for plus minus because after all, look at wasn't this year? It was the year before with Noah Dobson.
You can look at it to a point. I just
right.
Like I think if it's really really bad, and you're on like a good team, I think you can make an interpretation out of that because if everyone else on your team is a plus and like is like a certain point above even, and you're a minus and you're a certain point below even, I think that says something to a point, but I can't put too much stuff.
Well, it's sort of like
Anthony had to do this, didn't he?
Oh, I know. I can't wait to announce this one.
He had to do this, didn't he?
So the other thing to mention with that, Phil, is that you got other guys that they're like.
Is Dale Purinton getting out of jail to be able to do this? I mean, he went to jail for armed robbery, right?
No, actually, I did not know that.
Yeah, Dale Purinton.
You just said it. Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to this one. Who would win in a one-on-one hockey game in the current day? Me, Mark Williams, or Dale Purinton with a torn ACL?
Dale Purinton honestly is probably a top 5 worst hockey player I've seen at the NHL level.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he got there, but he would, yeah.
Was it him or was it Colton Orr that tried to gouge the other one's eyes out?
Probably Purinton. That seems more like a Purinton thing than Colton Orr.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember which one was which because I remember they were going to be teammates. Well, he's got a torn ACL, and I'm not that bad of a skater, Anthony. But all right, there you go. I guess that answers that.
Yeah, it was definitely Purinton. I don't remember Colton Orr ever doing. The only thing I remember Colton Orr doing that was really, really bad was absolutely knocking Todd Fedorik's lights out.
Yeah.
He pretty much ended Todd Fedorik as like a big-time fighter at the NHL level.
Was it Purinton that ended Nick Kyprios' career, or was that Darren Langdon?
That was Darren Langdon.
Okay.
Yeah, because that Kyprios was in the late 90s, and that was when Langdon was really, yeah.
Oh, and I didn't get Anthony's vote yet. I'll have to wait till he comes back on.
Yeah, I think Anthony's going to say Dale Purinton just because it's just to get a rise out of you. But.
Well, it depends. Is Dale Purinton going to be able to kill me? Because then it's Dale Purinton all day.
Yeah, if this is like a Wolf Bedenta Stenson versus Gordon Bombay 1-on-1, then I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, it's a matter of just hitting post.
Yeah, there's
do that in practice. I mean, I usually like to go bar down open in warm-ups, as Dave knows about it in the chat. Unfortunately, one of the times I went bar down, I broke his water bottle. But I'd go with me on this one, but he might have a torn ACL, Phil, and probably out of shape. I have a bad back, so that's not going to help me either. I'll still put my money on me. I'll put my money on me on this one. All right. Hey, Phil, who is the answer is Purinton? Yeah, it is. All right. A control room Anthony saying the answer is Purinton. Dale Purinton, by the way, did have a tattoo of his name on the back where his jersey he would usually fall. That was one tidbit I always knew about him. And Mark's version of going bar down is hitting his chin at the bar counter at work and then going down to the floor. No, you make see, that's a great part about being higher up. I got barbacks to do that for me, Anthony. All right, our last one, guys, and Anthony, I'm going to need your answer on this one too when you get a minute. Who is further away from the finals if they lose, Dallas or Carolina? Phil, we'll start with you, obviously, while Anthony types in his answer.
This is easy. It's Carolina. Carolina is closer to having to retool their team. Dallas they've got great young assets in place with Johnston and Heiskanen and Hintz and Robertson. And they have Rantanen to complement them. And Thomas Harley is another one that I didn't even mention there that you could go and bring up there. Adam Lowry out 5 to 6 months after undergoing hip surgery. He must have just saw this from Friedman or somebody.
Yeah.
But it's Dallas. It is absolutely Dallas. Ottinger's in net. They have him locked up long term. He's in his prime years. They could just go and add pieces, and they could be maybe a couple of pieces away from winning it all. The one thing I will have to say with Dallas is their center depth might not be good enough to win. I mean, and that's really what I think it comes down to every time Dallas and Edmonton play each other is center depth. You're going the 2 to 3 best centers in the world against Rupe Hintz and Wyatt Johnston. No offense to those guys, and I love Wyatt Johnston, but it's no question McDavid and Draisaitl over their center depth. And even if you're putting Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at 3 or Adam Henrique at 3, their 1-2-3 is as good as any 1-2-3 in the league, just because of the 2 guys at the top.
I got to go with Dallas, obviously. I think this one is actually a bit of a layup. Romanella saying, Carolina is Chernobyl. Very high energy and totally out of control. You can't win on effort alone. It is not possible in this era. Maybe when Ron played, but not now. No,
I
and also
did not have a Chernobyl reference on my 2025 bingo card for Pick'ems.
I mean, even Chernobyl would have been a good reference for that. That was the energy drink from Hot Tub Time Machine. Look, both of these teams develop well and bring up new young players all the time. I mean, in recent years, Seth Jarvis, Jackson Blake this year. Now they got Logan Stankoven. Both teams had him actually in this conversation. Tulsa needs to learn you can't win with a computer. It's funny, by the way, Phil, because it's almost like Carolina is like the antithesis of the Rangers, who don't have the huge analytics department. But on the other hand, Carolina is almost too big. So I don't know. Pick them. Which one's worse, Ebola or Chernobyl? I'm gonna say Ebola because it goes through the locker room and permeates everybody.
I'm just gonna go Ebola just because I want to see Mark Williams go on another rant about PLD or Cam Talbot.
Hey, you know what? Well, Cam Talbot, I don't think he was locker room Ebola. I think fans' reaction to Cam Talbot was the problem. You had fans that were actually saying the words "trade Henrik Lundqvist and keep Cam Talbot." As much as I would agree with that notion a little bit more now, I still think Cam Talbot was good, but not that great.
Mark, so if you can you pull up the tweet?
Yes, I'll get that one right now.
Yeah.
So
we're going to talk about this. So I think we're done with Pick'ems for now.
Yeah, we're done with Pick'ems, and I don't have any blind rankings for today.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about this. So Mark is pulling up a little bit of a, our media source for today for this.
Yes. And we have it actually right here. It is from Bald Panarin and is for Elliot Friedman saying,
we're going to go full screen on this.
Mm-hmm.
So per Elliot Friedman, Keandre Miller's name is out there. They're testing the market on Miller. They want to know what it is. We'll see where it goes, but his name is definitely out there. He also goes on to say that he would not be surprised if Keandre Miller is dealt this offseason. I have been kind of a component of not paying him that big deal. If he's looking for that big deal, then I would very much want to deal him at that point, because if that's what he's like hell bent on, I just don't think he figures it out here. I think he lacks up here, and I think that's the issue. And I don't think it's just hockey IQ that he lacks. I think he's a bit of a head case. He's a bit of a head case, and I don't know if he figures that out in New York. I really don't. And if you could pull the trigger on that and get something for him now, yes. But yes, that's the thing. If you could bridge him, okay, because they lack the depth, but if you can go and get and bring in depth and deal him and get something for him, or could he be dealt for Bowen Byram? I mean, that's a name that's gonna come up. It's Bowen Byram. That would be an ideal replacement for him. If you're gonna a change of scenery, could probably benefit both players.
Bowen Byram would be the ideal person to deal him for. If you guys were listening at all to our trade block breakdown yesterday, I threw out there the possibility of trying to put a package together for Charlie McAvoy. I don't think it's realistic. I just said it's a possibility, and it depends on whether or not McAvoy would want to influence it to try to come home.
I think it's a possibility.
Right. I don't think it's really a possibility. Never mind probability.
No, I know. I said I don't think it's a possibility.
Oh, I'm
I don't
sorry.
think there's any possibility that Charlie McAvoy is dealt.
Yeah, I think he likes it up there in Boston. Maybe he comes back home at some point, but it ain't coming anytime soon. I also think there would be a big risk on the Rangers' part. Obviously, that's a dynamic they would want. They would want Adam Fox on one pairing, and then having Keandre Miller be the defensive shutdown guy on the next pairing. Just what is Keandre Miller? Everybody wants. I think everybody bought into the Keandre Miller hype before when the seeds were planted and when it looked like he was starting to grow. Everybody wanted to go, oh, he's going to be a beast. He's going to be a beast. Well, is he? Has he grown into one? He turns the puck over too much. He's too easy to play against. He needs to develop a more physical game. There are the aspects of his game that he's good. It's just I don't see it. So again, watch our trade package breakdowns yesterday, but I do think Keandre Miller is going to be a former Ranger. I just don't know how soon. And if it comes down to contract, it might be sooner than later. But he does have Mike Sullivan, who could be the defenseman whisperer, hopefully. Because after all, some players have come to the Rangers and really picked up their game. I mean, after all, think of Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline was okay defenseman with Nashville.
Yeah.
It wasn't that great. Now look at him. Oof.
He was a solid 4 in Nashville. Very solid 4.
And with the Rangers, he was an incredible 5 that can spot and come up to number 2, I mean, on the top pairing with Ryan McDonough every now and again. Remember that game when he had the part of his ear was knocked off?
Yeah.
So, but as far as Miller goes, haven't seen it. And for that matter, I haven't seen it out of Braden Snyder in a while. So Rangers got to figure out what's going on with their young defenseman whom they were trying to build around, Philk.
Yeah. I mean, I think Schneider, I don't know how much room there is for him to grow. I think Fox is really the one guy you could build around, and then everything else for me, I could live or do with it. I could live or live without. You know, it's Miller. I just think that if it comes down to him wanting that massive deal and he's not going to budge off that and that's it, then move him, because I don't want to give him that type of deal. I think that's a deal you're going to regret if you're this team, because I don't think he figures it out. At least not here. Maybe somewhere else. No, I don't know. But No, that wasn't the question I wanted to. There was this. I don't think Romanov gets you the 4th overall pick.
No.
I don't even think Dobson does. Dobson, you would stand at least a better chance of, but if you deal Dobson for the 4th overall pick, like, what defense do you have? Because it's not a guarantee that Schaefer plays this year, especially with how he missed most of last season. So,
Phil, let me also go on a different aspect with this, and I was talking about this the other day at the bar. I don't see it, and maybe Anthony could come in with the comments and try to clear this up for me. Why would Utah give up a 1st-round draft pick for even Noah Dobson? They got Mikhail Sergachev. That's supposed to be their number 1. Why would they give up a top 4 pick to get somebody that isn't really an upgrade? And I don't mean, and I like Noah Dobson, so I'm not saying that to slam Noah Dobson in any way, Islander fans. I am trying to say I just don't see it. But again, hopefully Anthony can fix that one for me. I would like to see some scenario where the Islanders can get back in there. They could possibly use Colorado's pick next year in order to do that, but and then maybe another one of their own the year after. I'm figuring out ways you could do this without trading any players, because who's the desirable player on that roster that you'd part with to get to the 4th pick or the 3rd pick? That's why I still think trading down is the best option. Turn 1 pick into 2.
Yeah, I think Islander fans are overvaluing Romanov and Dobson at this point. I don't think any team. I get that the narrative is that Utah wants to compete, but that doesn't make any sense for them. And I honestly see Mitch Marner going there. I see Ryan Smith ponying up for Mitch Marner. He's going to go make a splash, because I don't think they have a chance at McDavid or Eichel or anything like that. I think Marner definitely could come in and be that other top flight winger that they need. So, yeah, I really don't see them trading the 4th overall pick. Yeah, Dobson's worth a 1st, but definitely not the 4th overall pick.
And Romanov went for a 1st, but you were talking about, I think, 12 or 14. I forget which pick he was.
He was a later pick.
That's not 4. That's a big cry from 4.
And you know what? And he's a nice defenseman. He's probably a 4 or 5 on a true cup threat. But I don't see any team giving up the 4th overall or top 5 pick, even in a weak draft for Alexander Romanov. I think that's somebody you could get for far less than that.
Yeah. And that's one of those things I would have to be wary about. If the thought is take Schaefer and try to trade back up high enough to get Higgins, I'd be worried about whether or not I have enough to get that done.
Why would Utah do that, though?
Why
would Utah trade down for a 1st and a guy that's a middle pairing defenseman at best? He may not even be in their top 4.
Right. I mean, Romanov and a 1st-round pick, that's a different story. But I mean, you'd have to have the pick from next year.
All right, so who is Romanov playing in front of in Utah? Who is he playing in front of in Utah?
That's a good question.
You take a look at their lines and tell me who he's playing in front of in Utah, because I don't see it. I don't see him being on their top pairing. He's definitely not playing ahead of Sergachev, Durzi, or Kesselring, and probably not even John Marino when John Marino's healthy.
Right, but he's playing ahead of Ian Cole, Olimata, and
those guys, yes.
Robert Bortuzzo. And matter of fact,
I
His
don't
former
think he's
teammate.
playing ahead of Marino. I really don't. I don't. I mean, Romanov is decent, but I think he's being highly overrated by some of the Islander fans in this chat right now. I really do.
And again, we're not trying to slam him at all. And if Anthony was on here, he'd probably say all the same things. And we all sing the praises of Romanov. I mean, after all,
I think he's good.
know him personally. So
I just don't think he's. I don't think he's somebody you give up prime assets for.
but again, I don't see how bundling just Romanov and bundling Colorado's pick is enough to get all the way up to number 4 to potentially draft a franchise player.
That Colorado pick is somewhere in the late teens, early 20s, depending on like the order. I don't know the exact order right off the top of my head.
Well, that's next year's pick. I think it was the 2026 draft.
Hold on. No, I want to confirm that.
I got it. Yes, the 2026 draft, Phil.
Yeah, so the trade was,
And Colorado's got the option to defer.
yeah, I'm not. I don't think that's going to be, because that's going to be a 26 pick. That's going to be, again, that's going to be a late pick too. That's probably going to be a pick in the 20s. I think Colorado comes back next year stronger, probably. And it's next year's pick. And yeah, it's a deeper draft. Okay. Like, what's going to be the difference between a pick in the top 5 of this year's draft and a pick in the 20s next year? I don't see a reason for Utah to do that. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. No. I'm not buying it. This is actually a good question from Dominic. There's guys that I would target at 12. I think the Rangers would hope that Roger McQueen falls, because I think he's the type of guy they would actually like to take the risk on with his size and his talent. I think McQueen's probably a top 5 to 8 talent in the draft if he's healthy, maybe closer to 5. If I had my number one target, if I could move up, and my number one realistic target, if I can move up, is Caleb Denoye. And I don't like to make the comparison because I hate comparisons, because it makes you almost sound like you're saying this player is going to end up being like this player, but Denoye reminds me of Patrice Bergeron a lot. Just a guy that is polished at both ends of the ice, is a contributor, a big contributor at both ends of the ice. He raises his game in the big moments when the lights are the brightest. He's just like a Swiss Army knife. He does everything at a very good plus level, if you ask me. His skating is very good. His shot is very good. His hockey sense at both ends of the rink is very good. I think he's a leader. I just think that I would not be surprised if one day he ends up being the best player out of this entire class.
Really?
In terms of like his trophy case and his overall career, I would not be surprised if he ends up being the best player in this class. I wouldn't. I think he's the guy that I would love to trade up for. I think Jay O'Brien would be somebody the Rangers would look at if he falls. Radim Merca would be someone that I think if he's available, I know he is a right shot defenseman, but you can to get a 6'6" defenseman that can skate as well as he does. That's tough, or that's a real good find for any team. I think he might end up getting picked earlier just because of that. I mean, the points were not great. Like, his goal totals were not great in Seattle, but he came over from the Czech league and was really good in terms of moving the puck and defending in his own zone and everything like that. I think that he really could be like a possible number 2 defenseman one day. Something reminds me of Moritz Seider with him. I don't know why. I think I could see him taking that type of developmental curve where the offense ends up coming out of nowhere and you're just like, whoa, where did this guy add all of this offense from? But when you've got a guy that's 6'6" and that's that could skate like that, it's tough to pass that up. It really is tough to pass that up. Keyshawn Aitchison has been mocked to the Rangers in a lot of drafts. Think of a guy that plays like Jacob Trouba, but with better shooting, better offensive instincts, and better overall hockey IQ. Like, he can go and lay those nasty hits and fight. And I love his personality. I love his brashness. I think he brings a swagger to whatever team he plays on. And I think he's going to be a hell of a defenseman at the NHL level. I really do. I could see him being a guy that puts up 40 to 50 points a year, and he's one of the most feared hitters in the NHL. I disagree with you on this. I don't think he's a third pairing guy. Aitchison reminds me of a poor man's version of Dion Phaneuf. Prime Dion Phaneuf. That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah, I got to do all my brushing up on the prospects right now over the next month because obviously that's what everybody does. We all do our crash courses, and
that's the type of hockey he plays. I'm not going to tell you that he's going to be that. Again, that's why I don't like using comparison. I like to say he reminds me of, and I know that some people will still even take that and bring it out of context because you got people that are absolutely destroying Craig Button for saying that Matthew Schaefer reminds him of Drew Doughty when Button clearly stated that he reminds him of Doughty in the aspect that he can take over a game at both ends of the ice. So, I mean, again, I think the world of Aitchison. I think he's very good. And I do think that he's somebody that'll target. William Eklund. I mean, I think he's going to be a good player. Victor, rather, not William, because it's William's brother. But I have him a little lower on my list. I do like his motor. I wonder about his size. I think there's offensive talent there. I just wonder where he falls in an NHL lineup. Is he a middle six forward or is he a legitimate top six guy? That's my concern.
By the way, to go with what David's asking right here, there will be a prospect show with Statboy Steven and us on the horizon very soon. And hopefully a mock draft that'll go for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this. I don't know if he's the play driver on that line as opposed to Anton Frondel. I'm not. I'm really not. You can talk to me about analytics, and analytics are not independent. They're really not. I don't think he's somebody that I'm not buying it. I don't know. I think Frondel's the guy on that line. I really do. And we've seen this before. We saw Cody Hodgson go in the first round in 2008, sorry. 2008. And it ended up being Matt Duchene, who was the real play driver on that line in Brampton in 2009. Matt Duchene went in the top 3 in 2009. And he ended up having the far better NHL career. And I'm not saying that he's Cody Hodgson or anything like that. I'm just saying there have been examples of this over the years where one player is really kind of like the play driver on the line. I mean, London had Sam Gagner, Sergei Kostitsyn, and Patty Kane on one line in 2006, 2007. Obviously, Kane went first overall. Gagner was a top 10 in that draft. And Sergei Kostitsyn was also a somewhat highly touted prospect that ended up getting picked later. But we know who the real play driver on that line was.
Sort of like how when Seattle had Ryan Gropp and
Matt
Barzal together.
Yeah. And Gropp went to the second round of the Rangers, and Barzal was the first rounder. Yes.
And when Gropp makes any difference in the NHL, I'll let you know.
Hodgson, it wasn't just a disease. His career was going south before that. So.
Where did Hodgson go? He was a Buffalo Sabre? Why do I remember it was a Buffalo Sabre? Is that right?
Yeah, he went from Vancouver to Buffalo, and his career kind of fell apart in Buffalo. He had like one okay season in Buffalo, and that was it. Yeah, this is a good point. They may not look to match an offer sheet depending on what the offer sheet is. What if that offer sheet is like 6.5, $7 million?
If it's 6.5, $7 million, let's go with what those tiers are. The offer sheets. Because you also got to protect the investment. Here's the compensation. If it's $7 million, and by the way, if it's $7 million, $20,113. That's a first and second, and a first and a third round pick. If they go slightly above that to $7,020,114, I have no idea why they picked those numbers. It becomes a first, a second, and a third. So I don't see the Rangers not matching, especially if it's not going to be below 4.6. I remember somebody on Twitter said yesterday, Phil, that they could imagine him taking a team-friendly deal of 2 years at $4.6 million. And my only reply is he's not taking a bridge deal now.
I think that was about Will Cooley and not Keandre Miller.
No, it was Keandre Miller. He had the 2 years next to him. No way does Keandre Miller take a 2 year deal.
Yeah, I don't think that. But...
Will Cooley would, because you could bridge him.
I don't know if Keandre Miller would get much more in arbitration, because what has he done to really improve his stock since then?
Oh, his stock has gone down. He had a 40-point season under his belt. But they're going to take the totality into everything and compare people that are at his position. I don't know. This is all the research that I got to do to properly say it. He's going to argue. I don't know. He's going to argue more than $6 billion, I think. And that's why I also think the Rangers need to move on.
Hey, by the way, THG, are you bringing up Eklund because of the mock draft in The Athletic today? Because that's where Victor Eklund got mocked, was 12 to the Rangers. So I'm wondering if that's why you're bringing that up. Yeah, I'm not sure about his side.
This offer sheet, Phil, this offer sheet was, if I recall correctly, this was when Philly tried to sign Shea Weber.
Yes,
from
this
Nashville?
is when Philly tried to offer sheet Shea Weber, and then he got signed to that like massive deal. Yeah. Well, if anyone remembers, the first offer sheet of the cap era,
Dustin Penner.
actually Philly offer sheeting Ryan Kessler, and Vancouver matched that.
Good to see Kevin on here again.
If he can get I don't even want to go to 5.5. I think that's too high for him.
And as I think it was Romanello that just said it. Yeah, he did. Romanello saying that people could actually offer sheet Matt Rampy. I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that one bit. If anybody, that's a waste of an offer sheet, honestly.
Right. What are you gonna off? What are you gonna? Just looking at the tiers, what are you gonna offer them?
I think
if you go above 2
that you have to offer for a minimum for an offer sheet too.
Right, but if you offer below 1.5 million, there's no compensation. But if you offer below 2.340 million, then it's a third round pick. So you mean to tell me a team would be willing to part with a second round pick to get Matt Rampy? Sorry, this is all just hype.
Yeah,
even though
I'm not buying that.
Yeah,
I'm not buying that.
Guys, we're gonna go for another 9 minutes. We'll go to 3:20, and we're gonna sign off then. By the way, right now the New York Mets are losing 5-3 in the top of the sixth. So just throwing that one out there for right now.
Yankees are not on until 9:30 tonight.
No news I haven't heard on the Sully staff yet, except the fact that Peck is moving on.
Nah, I haven't heard anything yet either. I just looked on Twitter before to see if there was maybe a release or something, but nothing. The Rays are winning 4-0 over the Twins.
Kevin, I'm not sure if I would say Larry Brooks' knowledge is laughably bad. I just think his conclusions are...
No, I definitely don't think Brooks' hockey knowledge is laughably bad at all. I think that's totally false. I just think sometimes he jumps into like fantasy GM / fan mode because he is a fan. He's a fan of the team. So I think that's when I think that's when he gets a little too out of the box, if you will. But no, I think Larry definitely knows hockey. He knows,
and also he also knows sometimes he's got to write an article and just sensationalize.
Yeah, I think everybody in the media does that. I think everybody is guilty of that at some point.
David's asking, so when do the Knicks get eliminated?
Not a good game.
No, and I think it's probably going to be 6. It'll take 6 because both teams can't lose at home all the time. And I think Indiana won on a lucky bounce in game 1. I understand that they had overtime to play, but that doesn't take the lucky bounce. They don't go to overtime.
The Knicks game is, I think, tomorrow, if anything.
Yeah, I think it's
tomorrow.
Saturday. It's every other day.
Yeah. I don't know. Not looking good. Looking good. Definitely. I'm honestly looking at like the off season right now with just the stuff going on with the draft. I definitely want to see what's going on with the Ranger coaching staff, but
let me answer this one. Actually, no, I don't think he does. I think people are you get the people that talk about him and say
he just got an extension.
Yeah, he overplays the starters. No, I don't think that's a problem. And I kind of like the fact that the Knicks haven't tried firing him. Like, none of the players are revolted against him. I don't think anybody's really trying to ask for him to get thrown out of there. And then in that case, who are you replacing him with?
He's been a dirty player. He took out Reinhart with the same hit that he took out Fox with, but Reinhart's coming back for Game 5. So
how is that hit legal, Phil?
I
How
don't
do you
understand.
go-
If he was a fourth liner, he would be suspended. He would be
Yeah.
suspended. You know what? I like Logan Hensler more than you do. I think the ceiling is low, but the floor is high with Logan Hensler. I think that at the NHL level, he's probably a solid 4 at best, but he's somebody that can come in and play big minutes for you in big situations. I think he could play anywhere in the top 4 because I think he's the type of defender that'll be able to adapt to whoever he's playing with. Obviously, Schaefer's really the cream of the crop. And surprisingly, you know what? I don't think that Jackson Smith is as far behind him as some might suggest. I think Jackson Smith, with his size and his mobility and his offensive ability, I think he is probably going to surprise some, and I think he's going to go higher in this draft than many think.
By the way, Phil, I kind of alluded to it before, but all the people that keep on saying right now, the Connor McDavid to the Rangers, even the Maple Leafs, I just got to roll my eyes and go, why? Why would he go there?
To
And
Toronto, I mean, he's from the area. He's from the GTA area.
So why would he go to the Rangers?
Or GTA, Greater Toronto area? Well, I mean, again, I don't know where he's going to go. I'm not going to pretend to know where he wants to go.
Right, but I think it's a little bit based on the value of franchises. Edmonton's the 7th most valuable franchise in the NHL at $1.85 billion.
Yeah, but
so
you have the greatest. Okay, here you got to think of it this way: you have the greatest player of a generation, a guy that's probably going to go down as a top 5 player of all time. Why would you not want him in New York?
Doesn't matter if you want him in New York. I'm saying, why would he come? And I'd be very weary.
The challenge. I don't know. I mean, somebody was asking yesterday. You were saying, I don't know if he has that Messier quality within him.
Yeah, I don't. I said,
I don't know if he does or not. I mean, I think he probably. I would lean more towards that he does, especially after hearing him unfiltered.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he goes about it in a different manner. Messier is very vocal.
I just think that Phil, I hesitate, and I just want to always tell fans, relax on this, because this was the Nick level thinking that got them in trouble all throughout the 2010s, because it was, don't worry, LeBron, they're getting LeBron. Oh, they're not getting LeBron. Well, KD is going to be available next year. It was always somebody else's free agent. Worry about your own and develop your own.
I get it, but there are other options there as well. And so it's not like if they whiff on McDavid, they could go after Eichel, they could go after Kaprizov. And I mean, and they'll keep things open. I mean, they're in the middle of a retool, so it's not like they're like the Knicks where they committed to LeBron and KD and nothing else, and they did not have a backup plan. And it took a Leon Rose restructuring to come in and really kind of save the franchise.
Yeah,
I don't think it's like that.
But it is stuff that I just want to always caution the fans about, because don't start thinking about whether or not he's going to leave. Because I actually do. We talked about this. I have to make a short on this. I have to make a lot of shorts. That's a different story. But there's the aspects, Phil, of I think losing is going to motivate him more than winning. I think if he wins, then he did everything he needed to do in Edmonton, and then he can move on and try it out with another franchise. I don't think losing helps.
I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if I agree with this about Mirka. I think it's Mirka is a weird thing because he came over from the Czech League and he really wasn't playing a whole lot. And then he comes over to Seattle and then he gets a major role there and he's playing very, very well. So, yeah, he's gotten more time, but was he going to do that in the Czech League? Remember, in Euro men's leagues, a lot of these teenage players that come up and they're talented, they're kind of like hidden and stuck down in the lineup, and they have to really earn their minutes. And that's why the numbers don't look great there. Like if you look at Alexander Ovechkin's numbers in like his first year in Moscow Dynamo, they didn't look great. And then all of a sudden, like scouts went there and they watched this guy and they were like, "Wow, this kid's incredible," despite the fact that his numbers don't pop off at you. I mean, they would hide guys like that in the lineup.
Romano is asking right here, do you think Sullivan and Drury give Perreault a full year in the NHL, or does he go on the Chris Kreider shuttle that John Tortorella put him on?
I would start him in Hartford. I wouldn't even bring him up to the NHL right away unless he absolutely blows you out of the water. So,
would you give up Lafreniere and a Peterka deal?
I think if you get if it's Peterka and Byron for Lafreniere and Miller, I think I would do it.
You know, this was a topic also the other day. I think we tried to talk about it and we kind of glossed over it and went away. But DP is saying right here, Larry Brooks is talking about favorable tax states and being too much of an advantage the NHL should have.
Yes, I saw that. I didn't get to read the actual article, but I know what Brooks is getting at, and he's absolutely right.
No, I see his point. I don't think it's a be-all and end-all. Because let me ask this question. How's Nashville doing? They're no tax state. They killing it?
Yeah, I think if this ended up happening, yeah, then I would agree. I do think that there needs to be some sort of advantage. They need to get rid of that advantage. And I know it's served its purpose because it's helped Florida teams finally win Stanley. Well, and I can't say this in Tampa's case because they won one before the cap, but Tampa won 2 more in the cap era. Mm-hmm. Florida finally won their first.
Likely going to win their second.
No, I think they're going to win their second too, but I mean, it's just, yeah, I do think that it does need to be addressed, and I think in the next CBA, I think it gets addressed.
Last I checked, Canada isn't a no tax area.
Toronto's got some of the worst taxes in all.
Correct. So does Montreal. Players are still going to go to Toronto. They're still going to go to Montreal. They're still going to make them pay through the nose. I think it's an excuse that the richer teams are complaining about. It's like, oh, these guys are going to Florida. You only had to pay Stamkos $8.5 million. You probably had to pay him $10 million if you went to the Maple Leafs. Yeah. But also, Steven Stamkos was able to sit back and just be Steven Stamkos. He didn't have to be Steven Stamkos, hockey god, when he went up to Toronto instead. He was able to go play around the golf and nobody knew what his name was. Or they would just look over and go, oh, you play for the Tampa Bay Lightning? Good for you. That's it. That's one advantage of playing in some of these areas like Nashville or Texas or some other stuff. There are guys that right now, don't get me wrong, I guarantee Florida, they're living like rock stars right now. And they do love Tampa Bay and the Lightning that are down there.
Nice area to live in. I've been down there.
Right. And as a lot of people said, they loved living in Arizona. They didn't love playing for Arizona. So that was sort of another thing that was in there. It's just, look, drafting and development is number one. That's paramount to winning championships. And then what you do with that is what matters more. Because after all, I mean, Phil, you look at Florida, they only got Barkov, Ekblad.
Yeah, and it's not as much of a problem in those leagues because the players make far more money in those leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not taught like so when a player gets maybe what are the high end players paid in the NHL? Like Leon Draisaitl's what like
he's going to make $14 million next year.
Yeah, that's the most right now of any player in terms of AAV. So the top end players are in the 10 to 12 million range, generally speaking, right? So if you lose a tenth of that because and the MLB also technically doesn't have a salary cap because it's a luxury tax and you can go over it. It's a soft cap. So and this too, you're losing out on a few million when you're making 10 to 12 million as opposed to making 150 million or more, depending on the league that you're playing in, it's two different stories. You don't see that in the other leagues because they're making that much more money. So it doesn't hurt them. In the NHL, it literally hurts these players, and that's why it is happening.
I'm still not buying fully into this. I know it's a component. It's just you can't tell me that if a player has to choose between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Rangers, they're going to base it solely on the no tax state. That's going to be a factor. But I mean, you're playing for an original six franchise to start. I'm using the New York Rangers for an example for a minute because that they are the original six franchise, the number one market.
No, it absolutely does not hurt just as much. It does not. Because you're taking the average NFL career and you're factoring in guys that are special teams players, guys that are fringe players that don't have the shelf lives. Those guys, the average NFL career is 3 years long because those guys are heavily factored into it. And there's more positions in the NFL that have to be filled that are filled by those players.
Yeah.
So the top end players, which is really what we're talking about here, we're not talking about a guy that's going to make $150,000 as a practice squad guy or whatever the practice squad figure is. We're talking about guys that are top end guys that are going to be making that money. It doesn't affect them. That's why you literally do not see this in other leagues. You don't. Where has this happened? Where has this come down and has affected a negotiation in one of the other leagues? Can somebody give me like an actual example with actual evidence to point towards this?
Hands down, you're right about this because it doesn't. It's not a holdup. It's just an extra carrot to go to a certain area. That's all it is. But you're not going to get people that are going to wake up going, I can't wait to play for the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Florida Panthers. But you're going to get those guys that are going to want to play there. I mean, because it's a nice area. And like I said before, because it'll be hockey, it'll just be another thing out there.
When was the last Ranger to take a massive discount to come play here? And I'm not talking Artemi Panarin because that was not a massive discount.
No, it wasn't.
When was the last one? What the guy who grew up on Long Island, a Ranger fan, and was in pictures with Ranger jerseys on as a kid,
basically forced his way here too.
Discount to stay here.
No,
he's not paid a premium. If Adam Fox is not taking a discount, Shattenkirk, okay, Shattenkirk, how much of a discount was that? How much of a discount was that?
I think he probably could have gotten 8 for 8 on the open market, maybe. But again, even at that's his choice.
Tons. That's not we're not talking about big time hometown discounts. We're talking about guys that are taking a little less per year. Okay, fine.
And also
less years. That was really the issue. Was the years was the issue.
Right. Like he could have gotten more years on his deal. I said 8 for 8. I made a mistake. It's supposed to be 8 for 7. But
I mean, really, 6.65. Yes, it was a nice, a little discount. But Kevin Shattenkirk wasn't getting $9 million per year. I don't think he was even getting 8 at that point. I think maybe he would have gotten 7.5. But I don't think there was a big market for a guy like him where he was going to get this crazy AAV figure of above 8.5 million.
And let me just say this, Phil. There is a guy that is taking a discount in the NHL. He's been doing it for a long time, and he wears 87 on his back. So,
yeah, that's the guy you can think of.
Yeah, that's the guy who's been taking a discount, and he plays in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no one but how much discounts FA give other teams. I mean, Sidney Crosby. Look at Crosby. Look at how much of a discount he's given Pittsburgh over the years. He's saved them millions.
First off, let me also say this. The players union wants you to sign for more money. They want salaries to go up. A rising tide floats all boats. I mean, it's that simple. You get a guy that signs for more money, then you can turn around and go, after the Capitals won the cup, the expression went around about Tom Wilson money. Tom Wilson got paid. Kevin Hayes got paid. Brady Shea got paid. It went around everywhere. I think it was Brady Shea. There might have been another guy that got the Tom Wilson money. And it's stuff that's going to happen. Like this happens with negotiations and unions. Salaries go up, they don't go down.
Crosby took a discount back then, though. Like, he took a massive discount back then, and he took a bigger discount.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could have went to free agency, though. That's the thing that you're ignoring here because it doesn't fit your narrative.
Right. It's like when everybody gets me on $10 million goalies, the $10 million goalies don't win Stanley Cups. Well, what about Bobrovsky? And then I have to amend what I have to say with that.
No, you don't even have to amend because Florida is literally lightning in a bottle. What other reclamation projects can you think of in the salary cap era that have gone from cast-offs like Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Forsling to top-end producers and did it for the small percentage of the cap that they did combined? 14 million, less than 14 million combined against the cap last year when they won.
One got to mention with Gustav Forsling, Ranger fans remember the name Anton Strawman. You find castaways, and then suddenly you can find a guy that fits your system, and then they could develop into something. Then you're going to start talking about them for a while. Oh, remember that guy? I remember when he was over here.
Development doesn't have anything to do with it, because if that was the case, then why isn't Adam Fox taking this discount that you're talking about?
Correct. That's exactly, and that's fandom. That's fandom. That's a kid that wants to be a Ranger for a career.
Here, he forced his way to New York and didn't take it. Mark Messier.
Also,
I want to be in New York. I want to be in New York, but I want 3 years and $18 million for a guy that was 36 going on 37.
And again, again, passion will only get you so far. When a player doesn't have the leverage, they're not just going to give up the leverage. They're going to get the most money they possibly can. And here's the thing. We would do it too. Every one of us. Me, Phil, Anthony, everyone in this chat. We want the most money we could possibly get.
Strawman was the thing with Strawman was that they wanted a guy that could come in and play the point, because Strawman wasn't really a power play guy. And then they wanted to give Stahl and Girardi those terrible contracts, which is one of the worst things they ever did. Even the dawn of analytics was telling you that those guys were bad for what the game was heading towards. And you could see the signs in their game that they were falling off. Stamkos got 8 in Nashville, yes, because Tampa Bay wanted to give him far less than that. And Gensel got 9, which was fair value. Actually, considering that Gensel signed in Tampa, he actually got more than I thought. I thought he was going to get like 8.5 from Tampa because the AAV would be lower due to the state tax. But Gensel got about $9 million. And Kachuk, I mean, another one. He could have gotten more. Kachuk could have gotten way more than that.
He could have, but also, Phil, don't forget, Kachuk had some RFA years on there.
Yes, they had to buy some of those out, and that's part of why that AAV went down.
Why are we not talking about the most expensive free agent signing in history, or the most publicized one, in John Tavares? Did he take a discount to go to Toronto?
No, he didn't. And that's where his hometown is. Oh, the pajama or bedsheet.
Pajamas.
Whatever you want to call them. Yeah, the argument that we were having is that these states lead to a giant advantage. Yeah, the actual salaries do not matter. It does not matter. It doesn't. I'm sorry. The only time actual salary actually matters is for budget teams. It's for budget teams. Owners who don't want to spend. That's it. It doesn't matter otherwise. So bringing that up is pointless.
Yeah, because you get teams like Carolina that they're not going to spend on anybody.
Dundon doesn't want to spend. The best thing to happen to Dundon was that Montreal offer sheet at Aho.
Yeah.
Yeah, McKinnon. Where's his discount? 12.6 is still the highest AAV before Draisaitl signed his deal and then blew that away. They do, though, because it's on AAV and it's against the cap. It does matter.
I still don't. I think it's a factor.
41 games against their own state taxes. They save millions over the life of a contract. Whether that's 3 or 4 million, it matters to these guys. It does. I don't know how you can say this and tell me that you understand simple economics. It's not the case.
TP saying, I think the Devils offer Rampy. And by the way, what Kevin's saying right here, that Matthews makes more than McKinnon now.
Yes, he does.
They always want salaries to keep going up.
It's always going to happen. This re-signing thing is a farce. And yeah, really, because you offering $500K less per year in a place where there's state tax. If you offer $2 million less per year, look at Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky is getting 11 if he is elsewhere. Even a few years back, he's not getting 9.5 if he signs in New York. He's not. That's closer to 11 and a half. And if what I'm saying is wrong, then why does it continue to happen?
I think also consider the regions that these guys are going to. You're going to Dallas. That's going to be it is fairly much a warm weather city all year.
Mikko Rantanen.
Florida.
So Mikko Rantanen wanted Draisaitl money. He wanted 14 million or more. And then what did he end up signing for? The 12.5 that Colorado wanted to give him, because 12.5 in Dallas is worth more than 14 in Colorado. Look it up.
Also, because I think he wanted to get off of Carolina before the end of the year. There was a chance they could have hurt his market value.
He was never re-signing in Carolina.
Right, but he really wasn't producing as much over there. So it could have hurt his market value.
He was never re-signing there. You could tell his body language, that his frustration with the plays. When they would go and do their little cycle and low to high thing, you could just tell that he was just not. He was out of place. He was a fish out of water.
Yeah. I like seeing this comment because that's what makes me happy.
It continues to happen. It happens so often.
It is a factor, Phil, but 10 years ago, we weren't talking about Florida blowing, and I'm talking about Florida as in the Panthers, blowing people out with contract offers. They got smarter with their money. And they drafted better. They got a better team. When you have a good team and a winning team and a winning organization, people are going to want to go there.
Reinhart is getting 11 million plus on an open market after a 57-goal season. I hope you know that. Even if you believe that his numbers are going to come back because his shooting percentage is unsustainable, he's still getting 10 and a half, 11 million.
But let's move all of that over to, say, DC. We'll put the entire Washington Capitals. They're the Florida Panthers. That entire roster. You think he's getting 9.5, or he's getting 11?
No,
they probably would have paid him more.
Anywhere else where there's higher state taxes or actual state taxes unlike a place like Florida or anywhere like that, the AAVs are going to be that much higher. And the actual salary doesn't matter because you still have to spread that amount of money over the life of the contract. It's not like you can give somebody, an $8.5 AAV $million deal and 60 whatever million, 70 whatever million it is, and they actually get less in actual salary than the total number of money being paid out among the deal. It's not like that.
I'm just thinking about this and going back
anymore either.
Phil, I'm just thinking about this and going back to the 90s when everybody was kind of laughing about the New York Rangers spending $75 million on the contracts. Peter Nedved was your third line center for the Rangers at one point. Like they're
the early 2000s.
I know we're the early 2000s then. But I mean, the Rangers were shelling out money more than anything. This is almost the reverse of it, where they're like, now the small market teams have a little bit more.
Yes, this is an issue. Like California and New York are two of the worst places to live in terms of taxes.
And never mind about, look, you want to play for the franchise, fine. Don't tell me New York City is a better city than it was a decade ago.
No.
Or LA.
It is a giant advantage. Look at Rantanen. Rantanen didn't even want to go to free agency. He didn't even want to go to free agency. He went and signed with Dallas almost immediately because he knew he couldn't get those $14 million offers in free agency. He knew that he had a great fit in Dallas. He knew it. He absolutely knew it.
Like again, I don't think.
Go ahead.
I don't even think John Tavares is going to give the Maple Leafs a discount right now.
I don't think he's going to either. I think they're going to move on from him anyway. I think they understand that they need to get younger and faster after this series, but that's a different story.
Move on from Mitch Marner as well.
Mitch Marner has been scapegoated for a while.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. But you keep talking about how they want to resign and how they keep taking discounts. That's a farce. Rick Nash, Chris T just brought that deal up before. Rick Nash, the only reason he stayed in Columbus was because they overpaid him to stay. This idea that teams you're going to want to re-sign or with the team that you're drafted or brought up with, even if they're good, it's a farce. It's all about the money. If the money isn't there, there are very few players that take significantly less to sign. Actually, there's less than a handful. The one guy you could point to is Crosby. And I wonder how much the NHL had a say in that.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't see Alex Ovechkin getting $8,888,000 the entire time.
They are, though, David, and it continues to happen. It is a massive advantage. As Romanello was stating here, it is a massive advantage. I mean, you could look up the numbers. The numbers are all pointing to this. Then you have a beat writer that's coming out and saying that it is a massive advantage, and he literally points it out. Listen, it's behind a paywall, so I don't have it, but there are people that have posted excerpts from it. You can go look up that article if you disagree. Larry will point it all out to you.
Yeah. But again, they're all factors that whether or not they're going to change or not, that's a big point.
Some players don't like the pressure of playing in New York or even a big market. Yeah, I mean, to a point that, that probably is a factor. But if you can go play in sunny Florida with lower taxes, you're getting taxed 41 games, and you're going to get an extra $2 million per year in your pocket because you're playing 41 games in Florida, as opposed, actually, it's even more if you're playing for one of the two Florida teams, because you're playing road games in Florida as well.
But again, I can't help but point out when the teams weren't good, people weren't rushing to sign with the Panthers. They weren't rushing to sign with Tampa Bay. When the teams got better, that was the main draw. Now they have the tax-free stuff. That's what's making them able to hold on to their guys and be a little bit more creative in how they sign guys.
Yeah, well, no player is going to want to go to a bad team.
Yeah.
No player is going to want to go to a bad team in a poorly run organization. Florida has been a pretty well-ran organization for the last 5 or so years. They were on the rise, and then they made the Kachuk deal, and now they're a destination. Tampa Bay has been a well-ran organization for, I would say, the better part of 15 years now. And that's why that's a big reason why too. But when you have that advantage, that's when that advantage comes into play. Because those teams could be terrible. Like, let's just say they came over a rash of like career-ending injuries somehow. For an example. And they had to rebuild and start from scratch. No team's going to want your 29-year-old free agent that's looking for a massive payday is not going to be like, oh, well, I'll save $3 million per year or whatever, or $10 million over the life of a 7-year deal. Excuse me. And I'm going to pass up a chance of winning a cup to go play with a rebuilding team and waste my prime years. No one's going to do that. I'm not saying that that's the case, because that's definitely not. But if you have the choice of playing between Dallas or Florida or New York and Toronto, and all 4 of these teams are competitors, and you get to go play in nice weather, you get to live in nice weather, you get to have lower property taxes, lower state taxes, and you get to take home more money while playing for a competitor, I think 9 out of 10 are going to take Dallas or Florida over New York and Toronto, especially if there's no bias or connection to the other 2 teams or any of the teams.
And now it's Phil's turn to have lawn care done outside.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna start. I haven't played bye in a while, so I'm gonna start on that. I have my cousin Phil on the show. Yeah, and California and a lot of these states are being a little bit more costly with how they're playing. Even though you could play at LA and have pressure like a Florida team, it's not exactly the same.
So, yeah, hot, humid weather isn't quote-unquote nice, but that's the off-season. And you can go anywhere else you want to in the off-season when you have that type of money. Every New Yorker, if they could, I guarantee, or actually, you know what? I can't say every New Yorker, but I guarantee you if you took a survey out of like 10,000 New Yorkers, I guarantee you at least 9,000 of them would want to be able to snowbird in the winter.
Yeah, hands down.
And Florida winters are awesome. I mean, I was just there in April, and it was so much nicer down there than it was up here in April.
And Dominic, you always get good value with us. It was supposed to be 9 more minutes. We got on a rant. There goes an extra.
No, that's not even 9 minutes in America, Dominic. That's 9 minutes on Big Apple hockey. Seems to be 35 minutes. Not just Switzerland.
Which is all very true. And I do have to say, friend of the show, Neil Villapiano, was talking on his podcast, his tweet, where they were talking about Switzerland is really becoming more of a hockey country. I mean, they already have a number 1 draft pick that came out of there. That was Nico.
They have a Norris winner.
Now, and they had a Norris winner, and they had a guy who it was Thomas Vanek. I mean, I'm trying to think of what his accomplishments were.
Thomas Vanek is Austrian.
He is? I thought he was Swiss.
No, he's Austrian.
My bad. All right. Well, all right. Mark Streit.
Timo Meyer, Mark Streit.
Timo Meyer. Okay. So I think they already are. I think they're just now they're getting more recognition.
When has this ever happened for the Rangers?
It won't.
When?
It won't.
Never. It has never happened. It has never happened. It definitely not in the Cap era. And even Mark Messier, the one guy you could point to where you'd be like, oh, well, this could actually apply. He wanted 3 years, $18 million when he was at the twilight of his career.
Yeah. And even at that. Depends on the movies. And again, they're all the old stuff. There's been a lot of at least like serviceable good stuff, if not good stuff. By the way, me and my wife, we just watched The Landman. What a show. What a great show. I got to watch so many other shows to try to catch up.
Because it's not a discount with these. The Romanello just brought up the taxes before. He literally brought up the tax calculator. Okay. He is saying Brock Nelson blocked the trade to Winnipeg before being moved to Colorado. Well, if that is the case, then he ain't going to Winnipeg in free agency.
No.
Probably not going there.
That kind of look, I would have, if I was Kevin Cheveldayoff, I would have asked Lou to let me talk to him and try to get that trade done. Because I'll tell you what,
Jaeger or Barlow would have been the return. Okay.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say Callum Ritchie is the better player out of those three?
I think the floor is higher on Ritchie. I think Barlow may have the highest ceiling. I'm not 110% sure. I mean, I think they're all pretty close as prospects. I probably would rank Ritchie a little higher than maybe the other two.
No, yeah. Igor was going to ask to be the highest paid goalie no matter what.
Yeah, no, he wanted to be the highest paid goalie. He wanted to reset the market. Now he's got it. You know what? If they can't put the defense in front of them, that's partially on you because you wanted to be paid like the greatest thing since sliced bread. You wanted to be paid like the team's best player. Okay, yeah, again couldn't pay a goaltender to be your team's best player. It hasn't worked. We've gone down this road for nearly 20 years, and here we are again. Great. Another 7 years of our goaltender being paid as our top player, and they're not going to win a cup in that time.
The only difference is this time we already saw what the process was, both with Henrik Lundqvist being as great as he was and as consistent as he was, and he was, guys, to not having that offensive support that Shesterkin has had. He's played with Artemi Panarin. Artemi Panarin's had more 90-point seasons than Henrik Lundqvist played with, period. He had Jágr 1. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's Jágr had 2 90-point seasons with Lundqvist. The first two.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
123 and then 97.
Okay. Igor has had, we'll just go with 3 and paced around 4 if you want to use the points per game and stuff like that. Because 2019 he had 93. He was going to blow away his career numbers. He had 120 last year. This year he was 89, so that's also another thing that helps. And in the shortened season, he had big numbers. I'm pretty sure he had huge numbers the year 21, 22. So again, just no.
He had 90 points that year as well, yeah.
90 points that year too. So again, Henrik Lundqvist dealt with so much of a worse roster, and he stepped up to the plate for them. Igor, you should have learned this lesson and not invested so much. I hope Shesterkin proves me wrong, guys. I really do, but I don't think I'm going to get proven wrong. Even though I'm proven wrong all the time.
Uh-oh, here comes Anthony with a who says no.
Oh, boy.
I wonder if this is going to be a Mark Williams like a Ebola list thing or if he's actually got something legit.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, Keandre Miller, Brett Berard for Marco Rossi. I think Minnesota probably says no to that.
I think Minnesota says no. Also because it's just the rights to Keandre Miller.
Well, Rossi is also an RFA.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I would value Rossi more than I would value Miller.
Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Rossi's a couple years younger, and a 60-point center at his age, I think, is a more rare commodity than Miller being a top 4 second pairing defenseman that's inconsistent and needs a payday. I think Marco Rossi I think he's on a trajectory to be probably a number 1 center. Is he a low end number 1, or is he a middle of the pack number 1? But I think at least he becomes a number 1 center. I am not sure about Miller becoming a top pairing defenseman. I'm not sure that Miller will be anything. The Rangers would absolutely do this. I think they would do it.
Well, here's the first thing the Rangers have to ask themselves, Phil. What's Mika Zibanejad?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to have to move him at some point.
Okay, let's say Mika Zibanejad is staying.
I don't think he's a number 2 center though.
Okay, where's JT Miller?
I don't think he's a center anymore. I think this year, unless he was like horribly out of shape, which is possible, unless he was horribly out of shape.
Okay,
I don't understand how he plays as anything other than a right winger at this point.
Oh no, we got Steven joining the show. We're gonna have to get off before we get really rolling. Okay, so Mika Zibanejad, and again, humor me on this. So Mika Zibanejad's a wing. Trocheck is still your center. And wait, I'm sitting behind a taxi right now. It has a big sticker on the back that says Big Apple Taxi. Okay, yes. We need to get that on there. Okay, so Mika Zibanejad now is at wing. So right now already his $8.5 billion isn't a great value because as a center, it was still good value. So now you move him to wing, and I understand he had a good half season at wing. Okay, yeah. So you have JT Miller. JT Miller, I guess, he's your number 1 center? Okay.
And where was this projection? Because I didn't see anything about a $10 million projection. Who projected that?
I'd love to know that one.
I don't ever recall anyone saying $10 million for Mika Zibanejad.
At the time, I know there were a lot of defensemen that are getting 9-something because that's when Fox got his money.
Yeah, but Fox
and Norris got his.
And Makar got that figure, so I don't think Zibanejad was getting anything close to that. Okay,
so Trocheck is then your number 2. Where are you putting Rossi? And if you're going to put Rossi as your 3rd?
No, Rossi would be number 2, and Trocheck would go either 3.
They've had the opportunity to do this several times. They've never done it. Move a Trocheck down the line.
They have. They did it in 2023.
Okay. How'd that work?
I mean, the line was fine for a while, but he ended up getting put back with Panarin.
I mean, I think I remember correctly that line was Kreider, Trocheck, and
yes, Kreider was on the 3rd line with him.
Oh, I'm trying to remember who that guy was.
And they did it this past season too.
Yeah, they did it this past season again. Again, it's just you then move in. Then you have a $6.5 million 3rd line center. It's not going to make. Sorry, that's 6.5. 5.75 if I recall. Trocheck is getting. It's just. I don't think it's cost conscious for the Rangers either. I mean, they're going to have to figure out what to do with that. Steven is saying this offseason is the perfect recipe for a wild summer, but we thought the same thing last year. I will believe it when I see it. Kreider and Miller have to go.
I definitely think Miller is a possibility, especially if he's bugging or if he's hedging and not moving off of and not budging off of a big long-term deal. If they can't bridge him, I don't know how this team can sit there and justify signing him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, the cap's going up, don't you know?
Yeah, I don't know how they can do that, but I definitely agree with this.
Yeah, I agree with it.
As constructed, it's not a contender. I mean, there has to be. But then again, I said the JT Miller move was one of the first that would be in an overhaul and a line of changes that would be an overhaul.
So again, it's Chris Drury. I better see what the plan is soon enough. And I do think they need to stay disciplined if they want to land a big free agent next year. But I'd be wary of Jack Eichel. I'm not as wary on McDavid, but I'd be wary on Jack Eichel. Just not fulfilling that contract. Although then again, yeah, a lot of these guys will find big monies. Monies. Jeez. Would you say the monies? Where are the monies? Why aren't you getting the monies now? All right, guys.
I don't know if that's a nice core necessarily. I mean, we don't really know what Pro is as of right now, and
We don't really know a lot of what Rossi is.
yeah, I don't know what Lafreniere is. I mean, Cooley's a nice piece to have, but I don't know if I'm building around Cooley.
Steven, we've asked this question a couple times. I got to come up with a short about it. I think failure keeps him there. That's just what I think.
I don't know about that.
We'll talk more about that another time. I think it was last week we were talking about it, Phil. All right. We've been going at this about 3 hours, guys. Everybody.
So this was something I actually went over on HF boards with somebody in the trade rumors forum, and someone offered it was Trevor Moore, 30-year-old middle six winger who had a nice year last year. It was Trevor Moore, Liam Greentree, a first-round pick, and Jordan Spence for Artemi Panarin and Braden Schneider, and I said no to that. But I countered with Artemi Panarin for Alex Laferriere, Liam Greentree in the first. But I would definitely do this. I think LA might actually. I think that Panarin would re-sign in LA. I think he wants to be like that. Oh man. Oh god. Yeah, that would be funny.
I'm not even sure if LA wants to part with Alex Turcotte. Never mind Alex Laferriere.
I mean, I don't either, but they need something. They need something to put them over the top. They don't have enough scoring. And I said that. And despite a superhuman effort from Adrian Kempe.
And Darcy Kemper.
I mean,
Kemper had a good series.
I wouldn't say he was really all that good in that series. Kempe
highlights.
Kempe was really the force. But you got Kopitar getting older. You got Doughty getting older. If you're going to try to take another run with this deal, I mean, it's something I'd at least look at in LA.
Yeah.
Maybe not do it, but at least take a look at it.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap this up officially. We've been going at it about 3 hours right now. Everybody, thanks for joining us for Big Apple Hockey, because I have a feeling we're going to be back here on Friday to do the Stanley Cup Finals preview show. Because I don't think either one of these series are going to be lasting that much longer. Who wins in a fight?
I think he just wants to hear you do the Misa line.
Well, Misa gonna go down in a fight against Jar Jar Binks. Yeah, Steven, can't wait to talk about the draft soon. Misa gonna go first. Misa gonna go first in the draft. Misa feel embarrassed by this.
I need the double facepalm Star Trek meme for this.
All right, I'll get it out. Oh man, some of these.
Jesus Christ, no.
No, she likes the impressions. I don't do them there. No, so that's all right.
Let's not go there and see me.
No. It would be worse if I was doing Christopher Walken. But that's a different story. But I know Anthony's got the play puck Doku on there, but I am running out of gas. We'll get to it another time. I'm still waiting to see how this shakes out. Do the Rangers give up the 12th pick? Where's the last one, Phil?
No, I think they're taking the 12th pick. I think they plan on being better next year.
Yeah.
I honestly think they plan on being better next year.
Hell, I mean, 1993, I believe they took I know they took Nicholas Sundstrom. I think
that was their first round pick.
I think he was the 7th pick of that draft. If I
Yeah.
recall. Yes. Yeah. Steven with a good line right there. They keep the pick, but then subsequently trade it for immediate help and end up getting nothing in return for it. So, all right, guys, we're going to end the stream there. Everybody, thank you very much. I have to check whether Ninja Gaiden cleared the copyrights. So hopefully it did. If not, I'll have to edit that out.
One of the worst final bosses ever in a video game.
Yeah, which one are you
The first
referring
one.
to? Just the Jakku or the alien?
Well, both. They're both the final boss.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Now, do you mean for difficulty or just
Difficulty.
okay? Yeah,
That difficulty is insane.
yeah. I mean, you had to hit him on a certain spot and jumping around on there. I remember one time I had him down to one bar. I was all excited about it.
And then he just comes back and kills you because the AI gets cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah.
Mark Stahl was 12th overall. They traded up for him. They landed at 16.
Yeah, I was going to say 16.
Days after Jeremy Roenick said they should rig the draft to New York, Philadelphia, or Los Angeles.
I love it how they should rig the draft to get him to go to the Rangers, but they weren't rigging the draft to get him to go to Pittsburgh, where now that franchise is on solid footing.
Yeah, they definitely rigged him to go to Pittsburgh. It's absolutely rigged.
Yeah. All right. Guys, once again, thank you very much for joining us. Like I said, we're going to be back again for the Stanley Cup Finals preview. And it's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be a great weekend. And then there's a lot. There's just a lot of news that just keeps coming down. And hopefully more news with the New York Islanders coming soon on Patrick Waugh.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be working that day, so I might not be able to. But we'll get you guys going, and it'll definitely be Anthony working the phones. Phil has his extensive knowledge on the prospects. Probably get other guests on there like Steven
will be on with us for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So both of you guys could get on there. I still have the highlight in there. The pick is in, but I'll change that around so that way you could use that, Phil. But there's a ton that has to go with the NHL draft this year, and that's going to be in LA. No, me and Anthony are not going to be heading there this year.
LA.
I love it how I said we're going to go to 3:20, and we're at 50, almost 50 minutes right now. So
yeah. All
right. Well, guys, yeah, we got a ton of stuff coming for you. A lot of the silly season, and also a lot of the little things. So, I might be able to stream from the bar. I was able to call up Philk on the first ever stream that we ever had. So, or we might be able to do it. I might have to cut my mic every now and again. So that's going to be something interesting. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us for Big Apple Hockey. We will see you guys soon. And like I said, just going to be an interesting Stanley Cup Finals. Take it easy.